Hello, welcome to my channel. Today we are talking about A Dance of Flies by Brittany Arena. A Dance of Flies was published on June 10, 2025. It has 5,688 ratings on Goodreads with an average of 3.9 stars. It has 1,368 reviews on Storygraph with an average of 3.96 stars, so basically 4 stars. I'm just gonna read the publisher's notes on the book as posted on Goodreads. A debut fantasy romance filled with hope after heartbreak, secrets, and betrayal as a dancer turned spy must decide how far she will go to secure her freedom. My protector is gone, revealed to be a monster, but I remind myself that I am not a damsel. I'm no princess bound within a tower. I am a shadow. Vasalie Moran was once a dancer in King Illian's court until he framed her for murder. Barely surviving her 2 years in the dungeons, she's suddenly called to face her king. He offers her a deal. Become his spy at the 6-week royal gathering and he'll grant her freedom. As Illian's orders grow bloody and dangerous, forcing her to harm and betray those around her, Vasalie discovers that the monster she serves may be aligned with a bigger monster, one far closer to home. With her world threatened, Vasalie enlists the help of Illian's brother and greatest adversary, the infamous King of the East. As the rivalry between brothers escalates, with Vasalie caught in the middle, the horrifying truth of her past comes to light. If she wants to survive, she must decide who to trust, who to fight for, and how much of her soul she's willing to damn in the process. The book is listed as fantasy, romantasy, romance. It's under adult fiction. So I listened to the audiobook. I tried to get the digital version, but it wasn't available. I can't read the quotes of the book, but I did transcribe some of the lines here, so I will be reading some of that. But yeah, just keep in mind, if I do get some words wrong, that's probably why. So let's move on to the review. I gave A Dance of Flies 2.5 stars. I just finished the audiobook hours ago. I just did some errands, had breakfast, and now I'm recording. So I don't have a script for this. I did write a review on my Storygraph and on Goodreads. It's already posted. This is literally fresh off the press. This is breaking news. Let's talk about it. The premise is really good. It's very interesting. There's court intrigue. There's Vasalie, who has chronic illness due to her imprisonment for 2 years. Her movement was restricted for 2 years, so she was shackled. She was in a very small space. She was fed. She was not starved in prison because the king wanted her to live, but it's still not proper meals. So her health was affected as well. Her muscles have atrophied. Her heart has a weird rhythm, like it's too fast, faster than normal, and the physician couldn't determine why or what's causing it. So she's easily fatigued, she has chronic fatigue, and her range of motion has been severely restricted. The opening of this book, we see Vasalie getting taken out of prison. They're preparing her, washing her down, and we know right away that she's not in a good place. She can barely walk, she is thin, and there's this really great quote at the beginning here that I wrote down. So this is 10 minutes in. I've lost the body I've earned, crafted through years of dancing. I really like the first few chapters of the book. I think it does a great job of making readers emotionally invested in Vasalie because it takes its time to explain what Vasalie had and what she lost. Before the start of the book, because we open when Vasalie is taken out of prison, before that, she has been the #1 dancer for years. She was the king's jewel, capital J. So basically, she performs very private, very exclusive dances for the king and for the other VIPs. So she's basically the king's private entertainer, private dancer. Before that, she was dancing in a theater where she did pretty well. That's how the king found her. She was dancing, the king was in the audience. During that performance, the main dancer got an accident. She's not able to continue the show. Vasalie took that as her opportunity. She took over, she continued the show, and that's how she got the king's attention. The king met her afterwards, like backstage, and invited him to his palace. That's how she became the jewel. So now the book opens with Vasalie getting taken out of her cell. She thinks she's been there for a year. In actuality, she's been there for 2 years. So she didn't even notice the time. That's how long she's been there. Yeah, she was taken out. She was showered, dressed down, rubbed clean. And we see Vasalie can't even walk properly. It's hard for her to even go from one spot in the room to the next. People had to manhandle and help her move. So while Vasalie is being manhandled from this room to that, being dressed and showered, she ruminates about her past as the king's jewel. The king was protective of her. He gave her jewels, clothes, everything that she could want. She has her own room in the wing of the palace. She's very, very much living the life. She has a lot of privileges. She had so much privilege and she was living such a comfortable life that she forgot why she ran away in the first place. Vasalie came from the north. I forgot the kingdom. The kingdom in the north. It's like Baron Bridge. I already forgot the name. Give me 1 second.
The new king of Brizendale is calling for war.
Brizendale. Brizendale. Okay, so Vasalie is from Brizendale, which is the kingdom in the north. It's one of the biggest kingdoms. It's a powerful kingdom. Basically, think Russia. It has Russian vibes. They produce a lot of weapons. They have a big army. So it's a big thing. Vasalie fled Brizendale and found herself in West Miridran. That's where King Illian rules. She left because her father was abusive. He was about to sell Vasalie off as a bride. Vasalie was 13 at the time, and Emilia, Vasalie's stepmom, who she was really close with, didn't want Vasalie to be sold off like that because she's 13, and Emilia knows that the man she's going to be married to is not a good man. Vasalie's dad found out that her bags are packed because they were preparing to leave, so they had a fight with Emilia, and that night the dad killed Emilia. So that's why Vasalie ran. I mean, they were planning to run before that fight, but Emilia's death just made things more urgent for Vasalie. She can't return to her country. She meant to flee and then find a way to bring her dad to justice, reveal what kind of person he is. But because she found herself in King Illian's palace, she's the jewel, she's living a really good, comfortable life, she forgot about that. She said she got complacent. She feels like she betrayed Emilia's memory because of this. But now that she was framed for a murder that she didn't do, framed by King Illian himself, it's a reality check for her. She now realizes that she ran away from a man in power only to be stuck with another man who abuses his power. So it comes back to her, the old feelings of wanting justice, wanting revenge for Emilia. She accepts the deal that the king offered her. She doesn't really have a choice. She wants her freedom. She wants exoneration. She wants pardon from this murder that she didn't even do. She wants to clear her name and have her freedom. So the king promises her that after the 6 weeks in the gathering, she'll be free. I think she has 2 months. 2 months to prepare, 2 months to recover before she has to go to the gathering. She thinks it's not possible because her body has degraded so much. Her muscles are weak, she's thin, and her heart can't sustain extraneous exercises, and dancing needs a lot of stamina. Dancing needs strength. Vasalie thought, I can't do this, there's no way, but King Illian says, well, I know you can do it. And really, she doesn't really have a choice. The first few chapters are slow. It follows Vasalie just recovering, wallowing as well, but that's valid. She's been in prison for 2 years. It does really a good job to show what she lost. It juxtaposed her previous life and her life now, and it makes you feel for her. It makes you sympathetic. While she's recovering, we're told that Vasalie trains every day to build her strength up, and she has to perform for Illian at the end of the 2 months to show him progress. We're told she's been practicing, it's hard for her, and then we get this scene where she hears music, so she follows the music and she finds 2 of her students. She taught 2 other girls a choreography, and King Illian is there watching these 2 girls dancing the choreography that Vasalie herself taught them. And we get Vasalie's reaction. There's a mix of envy and surprise because suddenly she's seeing her students doing the routine that she taught. I like that scene because it really focuses Vasalie's grief over what she lost. She no longer can control her body the way she used to. She doesn't have the strength to even do it. There are things that she could never do again. She wasn't expecting to see her students. They saw her as well. So there was a mix of embarrassment and confusion because Vasalie expected to be treated as a criminal, but no one really mentions it or no one even treats her that way. And then there's embarrassment because it's just in her face that she can no longer do the things that she used to do. So I like it. It's emotionally engaging. So after this, Vasalie feels depressed and hopeless. She feels very hopeless regarding her situation, regarding her inability to dance. She's worrying about the job that King Illian asks her to do. She doesn't think that she's going to be able to do it. In one scene, she went to this room to try to dance, but then she falls to the floor. Bridget finds her. Bridget is one of the people who is kind to Vasalie. She hints that she doesn't believe Vasalie is a murderer. So Bridget tells Vasalie this story about her daughter. Bridget's husband had been abusive. He was a drunk. One day, her husband set their house on fire. Bridget managed to get out fairly unscathed, but her daughter got severe burns throughout her body. After that, the daughter had a hard time finding for a job because of her burns, but she loved cooking. And she found a way to make millet flour. Instead of wheat flour, she made flour from millet. And it's like fine flour. It's lighter than dust. It's implied to be higher quality flour. So she tried to sell her goods. She's baking, right? So she tried to sell her pastries and stuff, but no one would buy. The people would just avoid her because of the burns throughout her body. But then one day, this person from East Miridran tried the pastries and he liked it so much that every day that he was there, he bought a lot of them. And then one day he offered her a job and took her to East Miridran. Bridget's daughter is now in East Miridran. She is working in the king's palace. The guy who was buying the pastries was Gustav, and Gustav is a friend and working for the king of the East. Okay. Vasalie hears this story and she's inspired, both in the hopeful way that if she could do this, then I could do this as well. She's also inspired in a creative way because she thinks of Milan and she incorporates it into her dance. After the 2 months, before we get to the gathering, she has to audition to be accepted as part of the talents that will perform. So she steps off this boat. There's this guy called Copeland. He's the master of revels. So he handles the entertainment and he brushes off Vasalie because they already have a solo performer. But Vasalie is insistent on auditioning. She has no choice. Her freedom hinges on her getting into this gathering. So she performs. She uses Milan as like a prop. She does this with her hand. She jumps and she throws it in the air and it makes like wings. The Milan is lighter than dust. It hangs in the air after throwing it up. She throws her hands and then the Milan sprays like wings, and then it settles like cloud, and then it falls on the floor. Vasalie dyes the Milan. She puts other things in it, so it's glittery. She called it moon dust, dust of the moon, something like that. So it's sparkly and things like that. So it's pretty. Copeland is very interested in this. He is intrigued by this Milan show. He accepts Valerie into the revelries. So they're in East Miridran now. Miridran is one kingdom divided into 3, each ruled by a brother. So there's 3 brothers. Instead of the eldest brother getting everything, their father divided the kingdom into West Miridran, Central Miridran, and Eastern Miridran. So Western Miridran is ruled by King Illian. Center is ruled by their eldest brother, Illian. It's very close to Illian. Illian? Something like that. East Miridran, which is ruled by King Anton, the king of the East. So they're in East Miridran, they're in an island. The gathering is supposed to be an isolated event for security reasons because we have several kings and queens from different kingdoms all in one place. So it has to be very secure, it has to be very isolated, it has very strict rules. One of the rules is once the gathering starts, no one can enter unless all the crowns agree. Okay, so Illian's first task for her is to befriend Laurent. So Laurent is chief of staff. He handles the staffing in the palace. Once Vasalie gets there, she right away asks for the head of staff, like where he is. I get tuck and rolling. Ay, gonna get him and just talk and make myself. Vasalie works quickly. She goes to find the head of staff. She's directed to this room. She was about to go into the office, but then she hears voices talking about some vague thing. And then out comes a man in a hood. So Vasalie sees the man's face for a bit. There's a description of a carefree smirk, things like that. And he looks at her in an amused way before leaving. Guess who that was? So Vasalie goes in. She meets Laurent. Her excuse for wanting to meet him was to request for supplies. So Laurent is this very friendly person. He's very kind to Vasalie right away. He's like warm and open and he's willing to help Vasalie in anything that she needs. He says Copeland is the one handling the supplies, but if you guys need anything, I can help with it. So it doesn't take a lot for Vasalie to secure his friendship. Yeah, so one weakness of the book, I think, is the writing. It's very telling and not showing, because at this first task, like, she was supposed to befriend Laurent, but we don't really see that. We just get a summary of Vasalie, Copeland, and Laurent working together to put on the show. They're working together with the props, the outfits, because they go to Laurent for supplies. We don't really see them building their friendship. It's just like, we did this and now we're friends. And then suddenly Laurent is calling her Vaz. He's calling her darling, and he's always very happy to see her. So it was sudden because there's no build up to that. We didn't see it, we're only told. Same thing with Copeland. He brushed off Vasalie, right, at the audition. And then we come to find out during one of the opening the opening ceremonies where they list out the rules, because there are rules that the performers should follow. Like, they're not supposed to interact with the crowd, they're not to get involved with the crown and the other dignitaries in the gathering. If they break the rules, they are out. Copeland would remove them from the show and from the island. After the ceremony, Copeland disappears, and then Vasalie leaves the ceremony as well. And she comes to this hall where Copeland is dancing. There's no music or anything, but he's going through this dance. It's very passionate. He's into it. He doesn't even notice Vasalie until at the end, which the end position is like him kneeling, and Vasalie happens to be in front of him. So Copeland stands and, acts very nonchalant, and Vasalie says, "You're the solo performer." Copeland admits it. He says that he's actually thinking of combining their efforts, so doing a collaboration with the signature performances. I like this start. They have that creative partnership. Two fellow artists just kind of click together. They have that vibe in the beginning. I like it because dancing for Vasalie, it's presented as her passion. Like, she loves to dance, and now we have someone who can share that with her in a very personal way. Copeland likes Vasalie's creativity. He was intrigued with the use of millen flower, and he sees something in Vasalie, in her creative spirit, that he really likes. And then we have Vasalie, who can no longer do the things that she does. She has to compensate with the millen and her creativity. I think for her, this is her chance to get back into dancing, sort of. So yeah, they both decide they're going to work together with the signature dances. They become dance partners. Kind of like with the situation with Laurent, we don't really see them practicing. We just get summaries from Vasalie saying, "Copeland and I, did this. We planned this for the show. We practiced all day. We practiced until I can no longer stand, until I can't breathe." I think Copeland was frustrated, but he doesn't show it. So we get that. And then we come to the opening show. So in the opening show, Vasalie and Copeland are meant to do the last dance, like the big signature dance, and they are supposed to dedicate the performance to Brissendale. So the dance is about a Brissendale story or folklore, I think, like a fable about winter and summer, that kind of thing. Copeland is supposed to play the role of the sun, and Vasalie plays the Winter King. Basically, the story of the dance is winter comes, he's powerful, but then summer comes and puts winter to sleep. Vasalie gets on stage first. She does the bit, with the millen, and everyone likes it. She was supposed to bring Copeland on stage as part of the choreography, but what she does, she spot King Anton, the King of the East, and brings him on stage because her second task is to get Anton's attention and to get invited into one of his banquet. Vasalie goes off script. For her, this is an impulsive plan. Before the performance, she gets the second task. So while performing, it's all she's thinking about, like, how do I complete this task? And she didn't think about the consequences until afterwards. The people enjoyed this because there was a bit of a controversy or like a little scandal. Not scandal. There's a spectacle aspect of it. So there was, gossip going on. And after the show, of course, Copeland is angry at Vasalie. So not only did Vasalie rob Copeland of his performance, she involved a crown, which is one of the rules that they need to follow. They shouldn't interact with the audience. But here she was pulling a king onto the stage to dance with her. So Copeland is not happy. Vasalie apologizes, but Copeland is now suspicious of her. He thinks she's doing it to get the attention of the crown for personal gain, like for attention and for favor from a crown. Vasalie can't really say anything, right? She can't explain, so she apologizes and they move on from that. Vasalie got Anton's attention. It was successful. She got invited to the banquet. So again, the task was fairly easy. It seems innocuous. Vasalie thinks there has to be more to it, but she doesn't really know why. She doesn't know why King Illian is making her do this. She can't see the full picture. So she's wondering what actually is going on, why it has to be her specifically. Illian could have had other dancers, like he had the students. So Vasalie thinks, why me specifically? And then she doesn't do anything about it. We're just in the first quarter or first third of the book, and we already see hints of political intrigue. King Illian definitely has something going on. He has schemes. We just don't know what. Anton is presented as this happy-go-lucky kind of Ray character. But if you've read other romanticises and other books that has court intrigue, you know that there's usually this character who's carefree and who's like a playboy who doesn't seem to take anything seriously. That that's Anton. That's how he is presented. If you've read those books before, you probably also know that there's something else going on. There's something deeper going on with that character. And we see it with Anton as well. He plays this flamboyant playboy king. He's rumored to have this glory court, which is like a harem. We don't see that. The glory court just... You know what's funny? The glory court, Vasalie brings it up a lot, so many times, but I don't think other people brought it up. Vasalie says this was a rumor. There are several rumors about Anton. One of them is that he has this glory court, but we don't really see the glory court. We don't even hear other people talking about it. We just hear Vasalie bringing it up constantly, which is, I don't know, it's it got tiring afterwards. Like, stop saying glory court. But yeah, there's that rumor about him. So that's Anton's image, right? Vasalie doesn't trust him as well because he is Illian's brother. Vasalie just believes he's probably just like Illian, and his reputation doesn't really help that. Anton is taken in by Vasalie. He finds her interesting since the performance, because that was a bold move for her to make. When Vasalie got confronted by the King of Brisendale, he says it's offensive for the dancer to bring a Southern king to the stage while doing a performance that's supposed to honor Brisendale. The king says, like, why not bring me, the king? Like, why not bring someone from Brisendale on stage? Vasalie doesn't know how to answer this, but Anton saves her, saying that the son character, like the character that Anton ended up playing, is the villain of the story. So Anton says, it was my idea and we didn't think that bringing a Brisendale person to play as the villain would land well. We don't want to say Brisendale is the villain, something like that. And then the king ends up agreeing to say, I didn't see it that way. Okay, fine, I guess. And they let it go. So yeah, after this, Anton invites Vasalie to his private banquet. Okay, so the middle gets repetitive with this. Vasalie practices with Copeland. They make plans with Laurent, like with the performances. She gets a note from Illian to tell her to do something. She tries to do it, and there's more practicing, but we don't get to see the practicing. Like I said, we only get like summaries of Vasalie saying, we practiced, I was so tired, Copeland was frustrated, or, oh, okay, this day I performed for this country, I was tired afterwards. But we don't really see that. She mentions having to cover for mistakes that she does during performances, but we don't really see the performances. We don't see her make the mistakes. We don't see her trying to compensate for those mistakes. We just get a summary until eventually Illian again comes back. Illian is a creep. There's one scene where he goes into Vasalie's room and just watches her sleep. Vasalie pretends to sleep. She wakes up and then he's already there sitting in the dark. Creep behavior. The king moves, sort of touch her, but he doesn't. And Vasalie brings this up a lot, that there's this desire in King Illian's eyes, but he never really touched her. So he lavished her with jewels, with gowns. She has her own private room. He would give her whatever she wanted. He never pursued her romantically, but Vasalie could see like a desire in his eyes. And he would protect her from other people in the court who want Vasalie. King Illian himself never touched her. So Vasalie brings this up quite a bit, you know, as portrayed in the scene where he almost touches her but never quite touches her. We go to the banquet. So that's the second task, to be invited. The third task is to poison someone named Gustav, who is invited in the banquet. The banquet is just a private gathering with Anton and his closest friend, being the Queen of Razam, the Queen's sons, and there's Gustav as well. So it's just a little small gathering. They're dining and wining. And then there is this light show at the end. Anton corners Vasalie here, confronts her fairly upfront, where he basically implies that he suspects her of being Illian's spy. And Anton tells Vasalie to get to know the people in the banquet because she might like them more than her allies. So I think the wording was, get to know your enemies, you might like them more than your allies, something like that. So it stucks with Vasalie. At this point, she likes Laurent. She thinks him as a friend, and Laurent thinks the same as well. Again, I don't know the basis of the friendship. I don't know what glues them together. We don't really see that. Yeah, but Vasalie now is finding out she doesn't want to hurt him. And then now there's these other people. Gustav is really nice to her. He was the one who welcomed her into the banquet. He tells her how good she is as a dancer. And Vasalie brings up, oh, there's no desire in his eyes, only admiration, like, for the dance. Which I found, I don't know if it was necessary, but I guess Vasalie has a lot of admirers. A lot of people desire her, but Gustav doesn't. That Vasalie brought up like, oh, there's no desire in his eyes, just admiration. I feel it was jarring a bit. Like, why would you bring it up? It's probably juxtaposition to King Illian, who looks at her with desire. Yeah, so she is welcomed at the banquet, and then she realizes that the person who welcomed her, who was so nice to her, who looked at her with admiration but no desire, was Gustav, the man she was supposed to poison. So Valerie, Vasalie is now very conflicted. She doesn't want to do the task anymore. It's now more dangerous. Before it was friending Laurent, it was getting Anton's attention. She thinks it didn't really hurt anyone, but now she's up to poisoning someone. So she wants out. She doesn't want to do it anymore, but at the same time, she feels like she has no choice because Illian is watching. Her freedom is in Illian's hands. This is one of the parts where Vasalie is an active character. Before this, it's very much just her going with the flow, or maybe it's more accurate to say she's just allowing the tide to take her away because she has no control over a lot of the situation, but at the same time, she's not fighting it. It's only now that she actually puts effort into fighting it. So instead of giving the poison to Gustav, she puts half on her own glass and then some in Gustav's. So when they drink it half, it minimizes the potency of the poison. So when the poison went into effect, Gustav falls down first. Anton is there. They're calling for a medic. While there's this commotion, a servant comes in and Vasalie says she recognized that servant. It's one of Illian's servant. The servant goes in pretending to help with Gustav, and then Vasalie notices the servant leaving with a small box, and then Vasalie falls down poisoned as well. Vasalie ends up getting bedridden for 3 days, I think. So she misses out on some of the performances. Gustav survived. Like Vasalie, he just needs time to recover. After that, Vasalie is visited by Copeland. He's very worried about her. I think this is the part where the romance starts with Copeland and Vasalie. Vasalie is touched about this. Vasalie recovers, Gustav recovers, and King Illian comes in later on to reveal that the poison that he used wasn't actually fatal, just enough to make someone sick, because yeah, the poison has another herb in it that cancels it out or softens the blow. So now Vasalie thinks Illian is now suspecting her. King Illian says, I'm wondering if you took the poison to save Gustav's life, or did you take it so people won't be suspicious of you? So now Vasalie is more scared. Illian, which makes Vasalie more compliant. So now, yeah, there's more conflict with Vasalie. There's more guilt. But at the same time, she doesn't really do anything about it. It's just a repetition of her thinking, oh, I can't. There's no way to escape. I tried to do this, but he's watching, and now I'm in a more precarious situation. That's fine. That's a character trait. But the way it's written, Vasalie comes off as a very passive character. She just lets the plot take her wherever. There's no attempt at finding out what Illian actually wants. Aside from that drinking half the poison, there was no other attempt to do some malicious compliance. So yeah, she comes off as very passive, and it's only Vasalie's POV, so we're stuck in her head. It makes the plot a bit stagnant because yeah, there's this repetition of just the task, her feeling guilty about it, but she does the next task anyway. And now Anton is also suspicious about her. I think he's pretty sure at this point that Vasalie is working for Illian. He calls her my brother's pet. Now we get to the fourth task, which is to sneak someone into the palace. King Illian manages to short-staff the palace, I think. That's the implication. King Illian says Vasalie needs to recommend a specific person to work as a seamstress in the castle. Everything is prepared. Basically, the seamstress that she's gonna smuggle in is already in Illian's boat. So Vasalie just needs for Laurent to give the okay. It doesn't take a lot to convince Laurent because he is kind. The book tells you it's a weakness of his that he is too trusting, he is too kind. So Vasalie brings in this woman named Asina. I believe that's the name. Don't quote me on that. It sounds like that, like something like Asana. But yeah, they bring her in. Laurent forges a letter to say that, oh, she's actually been here since the beginning of the gathering. Because remember, no one is supposed to come in anymore for security. And Laurent also tells Vasalie that he's done it before. Because he is so trusting, because he's such a kind person, he just tells this to Vasalie that I did it for a friend as well. Laurent tells Vasalie of the tunnels. So there are tunnels within the palace that only the king and Laurent and his inner circle, supposedly, the king and his Anton's inner circle. He tells Vasalie about these tunnels, and she uses that to smuggle the person in. We find out that on her way to get the woman, Vasalie meets a kitchen maid. She is in charge of the cellars, and it happens to be Bridget's daughter, the daughter who invented Million Flower. She's there and she's helping Vasalie find the tunnels. Her name starts with an M. I want to say Maria. Vasalie goes to the tunnel, she sneaks out into the docks, gets the person. The woman doesn't say anything, she doesn't speak, but she's this older woman and she follows Vasalie into the palace. Vasalie says that she tried speaking to the woman several times, but she doesn't really talk. Vasalie asks like, oh, do you have a family? Do you have someone? And the other woman says something like, my son. Before all this happened, we have a exposition from Laurent. There were prophets coming to the gathering, but then the prophets were attacked or something like that. So we have Laurent just casually telling Vasalie that, oh, there's this plot going on in the background where King Illian wants war with Razam. King Illian has it out for Anton. He doesn't agree with the alliance with Razam. He wants war with Razam. He just drops this onto Vasalie's lap. Like, he just casually gossips about this plot regarding kingdoms and wars. We don't see any of that tension among the crowd. We don't really see that tension. We just know that Illian is up to something. We see that, but we don't see what the plot is really about. Like, what is Illian plotting about until Laurent drops this info dump. But he just tells you this. Oh, he tells Vasalie this. There's a lot of interesting plot points going on. We just don't really see it because we only know about it if a character tells Vasalie about it, because Vasalie doesn't try to investigate. Because she is questioning why King Illian is doing the things he's doing, but she doesn't think to like eavesdrop. She doesn't want the spotlight. Like, she wants to hide, especially because her dad is in the gathering. She doesn't want to draw attention. But she could also be an active character by just lingering in the doorway, intentionally listening to other courtiers, or maybe she tries to talk with the servants and try to see what the servants know, but she does none of that. She just asks in her head what's going on, but she doesn't really do anything about it. So she's very passive. Even if you are a meek or a shy, a character who doesn't want attention, you can still be active. She can be more active by just being more intentional with her actions. But yeah, Vasalie doesn't do that. Okay, so there's the info dumping. There's something about the prophets. There's something about a prophecy. This is the first time we're knowing about it via exposition through Laurent. It stays in Vasalie's mind, like she doesn't think about it again. So she goes through the same thing, she performs, and then King Illian arrives, the central Miridran brother. Vasalie goes to the central Miridran court to perform. Instead, she finds Illian stringing up people. Like, she goes to Illian's rooms or Illian's quarters to perform, but then she's stopped by Anton. Anton is there, to greet his brother, and Anton tells her, don't look. And Vasalie hears this drip, drip, drip going on in the background. There's this tense scene with Illian and Anton. They don't really get along. And Illian kind of talks about like what happened, like why he got held up. And then he brings in prisoners. They're in shackles. Vasalie sees this and immediately she's horrified. King Illian tells Vasalie like, oh, why don't we make an auction and why don't you host it? And of course, Vasalie is like disgusted because, she was a prisoner very recently, and now she's seeing this another brother of Illian basically abusing people. There's an auction happening and people are actually bidding on the prisoners, which consists of women mostly. The men were killed, so the women and children were brought in. Anton ends up buying everyone. He bids several chests of gold or something like that. And yeah, he won the auction. Illian is like, you always know how to ruin a good time. Vasalie is disgusted by Anton. It's like, how could you do this? Oh, of course, it's for your glory court. If you read between the lines, you might guess what the glory court is. You might guess why Anton bought all the prisoners. Vasalie doesn't guess. She just thinks, oh, it's for his glory court. He's gonna abuse them like the way his brothers abuse everyone else. Of course, Anton plays his role as the roguish king. Vasalie tries to slip a hairpin to one of the prisoners, but Anton catches her in time and takes her away from the room. Anton is like, you could have gotten into so much trouble. We don't have another POV. We only have Vasalie. I think it's pretty obvious, or it's clear, it comes across that there's more going on. I don't know if because I just read similar plots before where one character pretends to be something while deep down there's something else. It's not really common, so maybe I'm reading the writings on the wall. So I know to expect something from Anton, and Anton warns Vasalie not to do things like that again. If she got caught slipping that pin, then she would be in trouble. Vasalie talks back. She brings up the glory court, basically saying he's the same as his brothers. And again, there's nothing Vasalie does about it. She tries. Like, there are situations where she tries to do something, but either the plot stops her and she doesn't try again, or she just doesn't do anything. So again, she's being very passive. It's only until 78% that she actually does something. King Illian is there now. Everyone is there. We have a commotion going on. So the woman who Vasalie smuggled, she's yelling. She's in hysterics and she's yelling like, my son, I want to see my son. She's being escorted out by West Miridran guards. King Illian is there as well. Or Elias? I think his name is Elias. King Elias? King Elias, the oldest brother, the central Miridran king, is there with the guards. And the woman, Asina, is yelling, I need to see him, my son, Elias. Ooh. And Vasalie realizes, oh, it can't be. But looking at them now, it's obvious they have the same eyes, the same nose. While this is happening, everyone comes in. Illian is there demanding what's going on. The Brissendale king, they're there as well. Everyone hears the commotion and runs to it, basically. They're like in a random hallway or something. Illian makes this show of, you can easily disprove what this woman is saying and then we can all move on. The other kings as well demand to bring proof that the woman is lying. So the woman says they have a birthmark that has been passed down for generations. It's at the collar area. She shows hers and she explains. She says, I was a servant of your father's. Father and the queen were worried about not having an heir. The queen claimed you as mine, so on and so forth. But this birthmark proves that you are my son. Illian encourages this to show us your neck, prove that the mark is not there, and then we can all move on and we can have this woman removed from the island. Pressured by the other crowns, the central Miridran king has no choice but to do what they say, so he exposes his collar and there is a birthmark there. It makes sense now for Vasalie because King Illian's father divided the kingdom into three. The central Miridran son was supposed to rule everything because he's the oldest. But then with the ties with Razam, their father and the Queen of Razam had a good relationship going on, and Miridran king was influenced by how Razam worked because in Razam there is a queen and she has 7 sons. Instead of appointing one heir, when the queen dies, the 7 sons would rule together as a sort of council. So that's why he divides Miridran into 3, giving 1 territory to each of his sons so they would avoid one fighting for everything. But then this does not go well with Illian. He was promised the throne, right? Because the oldest brother was meant to abdicate the throne. It was a rumor. For some reason, Vasalie knew this, that there was always this plan that eldest son would abdicate. But then, the king changed his mind and then crowned the oldest brother as soon as he announced the division of the kingdom. Illian is angry about that. Anyway, now that it's exposed that he is only a half-brother, he is illegitimate, the syndicate, like all the crowns, force him to abdicate. And then we go to the next day. So we don't... After that, after the king shows his birthmark, we don't really see him leaving. We're just told that he gave up the crown. He was escorted back to central Miridran, where he would stay until the gathering ends and until everything is settled. Afterwards, the king would go reside in the countryside close to his mother. So now there's only 2 sides of Miridran, the east and the west. Half is ruled by Illian, half is ruled by Anton. So it's at this point that Vasalie realizes that Illian is so close to getting what he wants and she can't give that much power to Illian. She can't help him get that much power. But still, no action from her so far. She feels guilty, yes, but again, she doesn't really put that into action just yet. Then we get to the 5th task. I think it's the 5th now. I lost count. So the 5th task is where Vasalie is really broken up by the task. Like, she can't take it anymore. So the 5th task, we have this bigger events during the gathering. Everyone is dancing, everything is good until the Brissendale court and Illian come in. They hear the news about a poisoning that happened, which was Gustav. And Gustav comes in, he has yellow marks from the poison, and it is also a sign of some kind of contagious fever. The Brissendale general is accusing Anton of hiding the poisoning, hiding what happened, and putting everyone at risk. And Anton manages to de-escalate the situation just a bit to say that, yes, there was a poisoning, but it happened in my private party. No one else was involved. It was just me and the Queen of Razam. So it was a private party. It's not like everyone is at risk, and the poison was not fatal. No one else is affected, basically. But then, yeah, the Brisendale people are insistent on making it a big deal. They bring up this, what if the poisoner is still here? Anton says, well, it's a secure gathering. Everyone here is vouched for. So they bring in Laurent. So they question Laurent. They question if everyone is vouched for, if everyone is accounted for. They need to find out who did the poisoning. Laurent vouches for every staff. He says they all have paperwork. But then we have Vasalie's sixth task. She is called upon to speak out, and Vasalie throws Laurent under the bus. So she says, Laurent admitted to me that he forged papers before. She doesn't say who, but she publicly testifies against Laurent, spilling his secret, saying he admitted to me that he forged paperwork for a friend before, the friend being Bridget's daughter. So now they kind of put the blame on Laurent and Illian and the Brisendale general, forcing Anton to do something, to punish Laurent. Anton can't do anything. He's forced to punish Laurent, basically, so he removes Laurent from position. Laurent and Bridget's daughter are taken away. They are taken to be held at a cell or a prison in the island until the gathering is done, and then they can handle them afterward. Vasalie is even guiltier. She feels bad about betraying Laurent. She couldn't make herself look at Laurent anymore. Oh yeah, before this happened, actually, there is a part where Vasalie was in the kitchens to do something. Her father, the general of Brisendale, comes into the kitchen saying the meat is hard. How dare you give us days-old meat? And Bridget's daughter was there in the kitchen. The Brisendale general physically attacks her, blaming her for the food. The others in the kitchen, they're like, we're sorry, my lord. We'll get the cook. We'll give you something else. There's no offense done. It was a mistake. That kind of thing. And seeing this, Vasalie has flashbacks of what happened to Emilia, this is where it's revealed that her dad and Emilia had a fight. Her dad beat up Emilia and then just threw the body over the balcony. It's a bit graphic. Vasalie saw all that. That's the night that she ran away. So yes, she has this flashback, and Vasalie feels more guilt that she didn't do anything. She wanted to do something, but her body couldn't move. Bridget's daughter is shaken, but she tries to brush it off. Vasalie wants to ask if she's okay, but she knows obviously she's not okay. So they just pretend that nothing happened. And then we get to the scene where Vasalie throws Laurent under the bus, and Laurent and Bridget's daughter are taken to prison. At that point, Vasalie couldn't take it anymore. She's been saying that for a while, but now she actually does something. We are around 78%. She goes to the tunnels, the same tunnels that she used to sneak in the seamstress. She follows the tunnels. She wants to find Anton. So she's in the tunnels. She realizes that every stained glass window, every mosaic, is actually a peephole, basically. So in the tunnels, we have the glass panes on one side, and you can see through it. One of the glass panes look into Illian's rooms. So Vasalie sees Illian writing letters, comparing it to another letter. She sees him using a stamp that she knows is not his. She wonders, okay, what's going on? She keeps it in mind and then moves on. And then someone comes into the room saying, Your Majesty, your guest is here. And then in comes this woman wearing the clothes that Vasalie wore just hours ago. This woman is dressed as her, has her makeup like her. They don't look fully alike, but because of the makeup, it's enough. And then Vasalie sees King Illian take this woman into her arms and whisper her name. And yeah, Vasalie is disgusted by this. She realizes the extent of Illian's desire. This is one of the scenes where the writing is really good because it's present, it's active. We are seeing things as they unfold on page. It's showing, not telling. I mean, there's still a bit of that because Vasalie can't help but explain what's happening. The narration is a lot of her thinking through things. So she's thinking all this oh, this is what he wants to do. And she's disgusted by it. She was about to leave, but then somebody grabs her and covers her mouth. So she's freaking out. And it turns out it's Anton. Anton is in the tunnels as well. Anton is angry now because this is very suspicious of Vasalie. He already suspected her, but now he caught her red-handed sneaking around. Anton basically says, I know what you did. I know you're a spy for my brother. I know you did the poisoning. Anton accuses Vasalie as well of sleeping with the king, basically calling Vasalie as the king's pet, king's plaything, that kind of thing. So Vasalie says, go check what Illian is doing now. At first, Anton doesn't want to do it, but Vasalie calls him a coward, so he goes to do it. They go back to Illian's room, and Anton sees what's going on. Vasalie doesn't look because she's too disgusted to look, so she lets Anton see, and Anton is disgusted as well. Anton takes Vasalie through the tunnels. They go to his room, and finally they talk for real. Anton demands Vasalie to tell him what's going on. Vasalie Vasalie does confess about the poisoning. She tells him about her situation. She tells him that basically it's all her fault and she wants Laurent and Bridget's daughter to be released. Anton asks if she would testify, like when the time comes. Anton says he's been gathering evidence about what Illian is doing. Illian tried to kill him so many times, so Anton knows that Illian is up to no good, and during the gathering, he has been trying to get evidence of what Illian is doing. I forgot to say, so Anton also has a reputation as being an inventor. He, Gustav, and Queen Sadira, the Queen of Razam, have been working on a project together. They don't want to say what the project is yet, but they make it sound like it's a big thing. It's an innovation, basically, and it involves glass. Is Miridran, they have like a glass industry. Even their weapons are made of glass. They have this specific glass that is like harder, more durable than normal glass, and they use it in their weapons and stuff like that. So is Miridran, they don't rely on the weapons coming from Brizendale. They have an alliance with Razam, who has a fraught relationship with Brizendale. So Anton says, we're building a case against Illian. Would you testify when the time comes? Vasalie says yes, despite the possible consequences to her, because she would get implicated. Anton promises that he will protect Vasalie, that if she helps him, he would help her get her freedom. So they work together. Finally, this is around 70%. So finally, they are working together. They are talking for real. Because they do have conversations, but it's that enemies to lovers, sassy conversation. King Anton flirts with her, and Loki hints that he will discover her secrets. And Vasalie plays this, oh, I'm not sure what you're talking about, my lord, that kind of thing. But she snaps back as well. So we get that enemies to lovers banter going on. Generic. So yeah, they agree to work together, and at this point I would think finally they're gonna do something. Finally there is a concrete plan. Finally there's an action. But no, Anton just says, if he asks you to do something, let me know. And then off Vasalie goes and does basically the same thing that she's been doing before. Except now she is thinking about Anton more. She is wondering if she could trust him, which is valid. One of the good things in the book as well is we have a reason why Vasalie doesn't trust Anton right away. Two men in her past abused and used her, pretended to care for her, only to use her later on. So that's her father and King Illian. So she's very wary of Anton, not only because of his reputation, but also because he is Illian's brother, and the two older brothers are already alike. Anton's reputation doesn't help. Vasalie constantly brings up the glory court. She uses it as a proof of Illian's debauchery. Oh, you have this glory court, people are fawning over you, you're a playboy, blah blah blah. She uses that as like justification to basically think that Anton is the same as the others. Anton has been kind to her, flirty or sassy. He has been respectful and stuff like that. But again, she's still wary because Illian was the same way before. He doted on her, he cared for her, he protected her, but it didn't turn out well. So she doesn't trust Anton. Now, Vasalie is just waiting for word from Anton about, gathering evidence. While all that is going on, we have Copeland and Vasalie continuing to work together, but the relationship is now getting testy because Illian brings in his previous dancer. So, before Vasalie became the jewel, King Illian had a favorite dancer. He did not name her his jewel, but he was her favorite. The woman's name starts with an E. It's very similar to Emilia, or I think so. Anyway, the previous favorite actually slept with Illian. She was his favorite. He was pursuing her. They slept together, and then after that, Illian got tired of her, so he sent her off. That's when the dancers started working in the same theater with Vasalie. So the dancer was there first, and then Vasalie came. That's how she knows her. So this was a dancer who broke her wrist, and Vasalie took her place. That was the night that she met Illian. So it's kind of connected. So this previous favorite dancer is also revealed to be Copeland's former partner and lover. There's that spark going on, reigniting, because they were former partners in dancing and they were lovers as well. But then the dancer was taken in by the crown and taken away by the crown. It turns out that Illian was the crown that took her. One of Copeland's rules that don't get involved with the crown. That's one of the point of contentions in the relationship because he sees Vasalie with Illian, but she can't really explain why because they are doing that spy thing. And then he also sees Vasalie with Anton, so he warns Vasalie Vasalie not to get involved, but like previously at that point there was nothing going on. But now with Vasalie's and Anton's alliance, Anton gets closer to Vasalie and Copeland notices, so she tries to warn her again, like, what's going on? I thought we had this connection. When the former dancer comes back to the palace, she was approved, by the way, by all the crown. This dancer, she has a reputation as well. She was a really good dancer. She was a good performer. The princess said it's such a good opportunity to reunite Copeland and this dancer again. That's why the crowns approved her to enter after the gathering started. So anyway, Copeland is now focused on her. There's a scene where Vasalie goes to Copeland to plan their next dance, but then Copeland's like, actually they want me to dance with my former partner. We're still dancing the next signature dance, but this week they want me and my former partner to perform. Vasalie feels hurt about this because she feels like she's being replaced now. But at this time, she had already rejected Copeland because one of the oh my gosh, I forgot to say. One of the performances that is actually written on page, we see Copeland and Vasalie, I think it was their first signature dance where they're supposed to honor, I think, Razam. During that dance, there's tension, you know, there's passion, they are dancing, they're touching each other. At the end of the choreography, Copeland kisses Vasalie. It's not part of the choreography, but people think it is. King Illian is there, visibly not liking it. Anton is there, impassively watching, like he has his mask on. Vasalie is concerned, like, what's going on? And then the kiss ends, and afterwards, they start asking, like, oh, are you guys two together? Blah, blah, blah. Vasalie says, no, it's just part of the choreography. Yeah, Vasalie is taken aback. She's not too happy about it because it blurs the line of their relationship because they are dance partners. This romance feels out of the blue for me. I get it, they have chemistry in terms of their dancing, and Copeland was showing some care toward her, especially when she was poisoned and things like that. You can see Copeland caring for Vasalie, but for me, I don't see the chemistry romantically. I don't see how they bonded romantically. We're not shown. Vasalie only says, we did this, we spent time together, we practiced. Oh, there's like intimacy between us because of the dancing. I feel very close to him. He is my comfort. I take comfort in his arms, that kind of thing, but we don't really see it. We don't see them getting closer. We don't see their emotions evolving in real time. We just see, you know, eventually Copeland starts calling her Vaz, brushes her hair, touches her cheek, that kind of things. And now we see Copeland kissing her. Yeah, Vasalie rejects him. And this is the part where Vasalie ruminates, yeah, we probably shouldn't do this because we are working partners. It muddies the line, so she rejects him. Copeland is hurt, but he backs off. The next scene, we have them walking in the garden. They're talking. They're planning for their next dance, and it's a bit weird because of the rejection. They're not clicking. They say, okay, let's go to the venue of the next dance. Maybe we'll get inspiration. So they do. They go to like the gardens or whatever. Copeland pulls Vasalie into a hug. Again, we get Vasalie saying he missed his comfort, and then it's interrupted by the Princess of Brissendale coming in with a woman. This is where we find out that the former dancer was the partner who was taken from him by a crown, the crown being Illian. I'm not sure about the timeline of things. Copeland says he had a partner before. I'm assuming partner in the gatherings, not sure how long ago. And then the crown pulls her away from the duo, the dancing duo, and then she becomes the favorite of King Illian for a while. I'm not sure again how long. And then King Illian gets bored of her. She goes to work at the theater Vasalie was in. And then the former favorite invites King Illian to watch a show in an attempt to get back his attention. But that's when King Illian sees Vasalie. Yeah, I'm not sure about the timeline, but that's the sequence of events. So Copeland is shocked, but we get Vasalie saying he looks pleased, like he's smiling. Okay, so the princess convinces all the crowns to approve the former favorite to join the gathering. They want her to perform with Copeland. Okay, so we get to the performance. It's one of the main events of the gathering. We have the scene where Vasalie goes to Copeland to plan this scene. It's meant to honor Razam. Vasalie comes up with this idea to use colors because Razam, it has to do something with their country. Like, it's a country that uses color in their fashion and stuff like that. So Vasalie's idea was to like, oh, let's use colors. I'm not sure like what she meant about it. She doesn't just say we will use colors. She says something else, but the way it was described, I'm not really sure what the idea was. But yeah, she says she has this idea. She goes to Copeland, and then Copeland is kind of awkward about this because he and his former partner are performing that week. And Vasalie gets hurt by this. She's disappointed by it. And she brings it up herself that like she has no right to be disappointed because she already rejected Copeland. This is where Vasalie thinks, oh, I'm losing my comfort character, because basically Copeland is her comfort character because, you know, they're both dancers. They understand each other in an artistic way, and Vasalie has also shared her family background with Copeland, so she feels comfortable with him. But yeah, Vasalie can't really do anything about it. They have the crowns wanted this, so they're gonna dance. And we get to the dance. Vasalie can take the week off or take the day off, but she goes to watch the performance, and it's an aerial show where people hang from ribbons and like spin around in the air and dance while wrapped around ribbons. So it's that kind of show. And Vasalie mentions that Copeland mentioned to her before that they don't have the necessary equipment for an aerial show, but that's what they're doing now. The former dancer comes down from the ceiling wrapped in ribbons, and her dress is this colorful thing. I couldn't visualize it, but Vasalie says, oh, they used my idea. So this is where Vasalie realizes that maybe she and Copeland were just essentially seeking each other out for companionship and comfort. Vasalie thinks, I don't have a right to be jealous. I've already rejected Copeland, and like besides, our relationship is more based on what they need at the moment. Vasalie watches this and she's very envious, but not of their relationship. She's envious because Copeland and the dancer are doing this choreography that she could never do again. I like that part. I like that while she was watching them dance, it wasn't focused on the romance. It wasn't focused on her relationship with Copeland, but her relationship with dancing. She's looking at King Illian's former favorite dancer, and she's thinking she's everything that she wanted to be, but couldn't be anymore. It puts into focus Vasalie's relationship with dancing now that she has chronic illness. This is one of the few scenes that actually brings it up, because like I said before, when they do the practicing with Copeland, we're not shown, we're just told. We're just told that Copeland was frustrated because there are certain things that they can't do because of Vasalie's physical restrictions. But this is the second time, I think, that we see on page how Vasalie reacts to being confronted by this reality that she can no longer do things that she could do before. While the performance is going on, Anton approaches Vasalie, and they have this back and forth again where Anton flirts with Vasalie. He says something like, if you think he's the only one who can make you feel you're wrong. And he does this like whispering into her ear, so very flirtatiously. Vasalie responds to that. She feels all sorts of things. She's hot and bothered. And then Copeland interrupts. Copeland, once again, is being mean to Vasalie. He reminds her that you're not supposed to get involved with the crown. So they have a bit of a fight over it. After that, we have Copeland approaching Vasalie again after the performance, and he tells Vasalie that nothing is really going on with the former dancer. It's just like in the past, but he couldn't get Vasalie out of his head. He couldn't wash her from his skin, that kind of thing. And then from this point on, Copeland kind of fades in the background with the former partner coming back, and Vasalie is now having this allyship with King Anton and a sort of flirting going on, mostly from Anton's side. And then Vasalie says, you know, I hate you, I don't like you, blah blah blah, the usual enemies to lovers thing. Yeah, Copeland fades in the background, which I'm kind of disappointed about, because I feel like Vasalie and Copeland's relationship worked more as creative partners. I don't think the romance or the attraction was necessary, especially because it's very obvious who the love interest is. I mean, Copeland wasn't even mentioned in the synopsis at the back of the book or the publishing description. We kind of know who she's going to end up with. I think her relationship with Copeland would have been more satisfying if they kept it as an artistic partnership, so they can be like creative soulmates. Their connection is their art, and that's their bond. Now that there's infatuation involved, it cheapens that relationship, especially since we're supposed to deal with Vasalie's chronic illness, how it affects her as a dancer, and her relationship with Copeland could have been that parallel with her dancing with Copeland, with her watching how Copeland is with a whole dancer. It's different, right? Because Copeland can do things that he couldn't do with Vasalie just because they're both limited with her movements. So it could have been like a parallel for that. Not only is her illness affecting her own range of motions, but it's going to affect her future dancing partners. I wish we could have that plot point between them instead of the second choice in a love triangle. A second choice that's not really a choice, because Anton was set up from the beginning. The very first dance, Vasalie was supposed to dance with Copeland, but then she grabs Anton from the audience. I think that is very telling. That basically sums up the love triangle. I don't think the love triangle was as necessary. We could have had just a parallel with the dancing. Anyway, Copeland disappears in the background while Anton and Vasalie find more evidence. So Vasalie doesn't really do anything. She just goes on with the show, keeps her cover with trying to help Illian. She's still following Illian's tasks, but now she would tell Anton. I don't remember the task that she passes on to Anton. It would be the seventh task, I think. think. I think the 7th task is just Vasalie needs to attend 2 banquets. That's it. No other instructions. She's able to pass that to Anton. And then we have the scene where Anton takes Vasalie out because he had Illian followed, and they reported Illian went out. He went to this brothel. They go in disguise. They sneak out. They follow Illian to the brothel. Anton says Illian usually does his shady business outside of the palace, thinking that Anton couldn't spy on him outside the palace, and he uses that specific brothel because Illian paid off the owner. But it turns out the brothel owner was loyal to Anton. So they go into the brothel, the owner lets them in, they go into the room like adjacent to where King Illian went. They're eavesdropping. They find out that Illian is with the general of Brissendale, so Vasalie's father. So we have Vasalie like shocked, in a panic now that, oh, they're working together. Why are they working together? What's going on here? And while she's low-key panicking, she's wondering why Anton is so calm. So what Anton is doing is he took out a lens and then he was assembling something, like attaching it to a box. So the thing that he was assembling was basically a camera, one of the old-timey cameras where you have the lens in the box. It doesn't really explain what the box looks like or how it works because it's in Vasalie's point of view. We just see her watching Anton assemble this thing with a glass and a box, attaching it together and aiming it at the people. And then there's a click. Illian and the general kind of look around. Anton and Vasalie manage to close the door. They ram, they go to the room. So what they do is Vasalie and Anton pretend to be in bed because it is a brothel, so they're pretend kissing. And then the door opens. They are still kissing. And the general and King Illian are like, they're like, what's going on? What is it? Anton is basically covering Vasalie's face so they don't see anything. They're just kissing in bed. And then the owner comes in and she's like, oh, that's our new girl, and this drunk patron paid for her. I don't want to lose more patrons, so let's not disturb them. The suspicion is gone. Illian and the general leave. A note about the romance. Kind of like with Copeland and Vasalie, I don't see the chemistry because there's no build up to it. The interactions between Vasalie and Anton, it goes like this. Anton swaggers in, all smirks and his playboy mask. He makes flirty comments to Vasalie. Vasalie snaps back because she doesn't trust him. She's thinking he's probably just like his brothers. And Vasalie says something with a variation of like, you're annoying, you're arrogant. And then we have her thinking, oh, I shouldn't have snapped back. He's a crown. I'm just like a lowly dancer. I shouldn't have said that. Anton likes her talking back. That's their dynamic. Until Vasalie was honest with Anton, they haven't really had a good talk that would connect them emotionally. So this whole trope of let's hide by kissing, it's not sudden because like if you've read romantasy before, you kind of know where it's going. It's a trope, so you know what it's trying to do, how it's gonna go. But yeah, it doesn't really land. I admit, like that scene was steamy, it was fun, but there's no emotional attachment to it. Outside of that scene, I felt like, okay, why are these 2 characters here now? The kiss starts out pretend, right? But as the trope goes, the kiss starts to become real. They forget that we're supposed to be hiding and they just throw themselves into the kiss. But again, like I don't see what they like about each other. Anton calls Vasalie like very artistic, inspirational character, and I think it calls back to how she dances, but she barely dances on page. Aside from the big moments, like, you know, when she danced with Copeland and Copeland kissed her, and the first dance, the audition, we don't really see her dancing a lot. It's mentioned that she goes to perform for a specific court, but we don't see it. We're just told. Anton tells her a few times that, oh, I like your creativity, blah, 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 but it falls flat because we're not really shown. After the let's hide by kissing trope, they go back to the palace. Anton takes Vasalie into his chambers, like in the wing, because Vasalie can't return very suspicious time of day because it's like midnight. The plan was Vasalie's gonna stay in Anton's wing and she's gonna sneak out in the morning, and Anton can create a diversion so Vasalie can sneak out. Vasalie is in like a dark room. I don't know if there's a window. I don't remember. And she wakes up with a nightmare. Her room is dark. She's remembering her time in the prison. Of course, Anton comes in, helps her wake up from the nightmare. He asks her to like tell her what she's seeing. 5 words that describe this, 5 words that describe that. And we have that trope where Anton is like, okay, tell me more. 4 other words. What do you see? And then Vasalie says, you. You know how it goes. If you've read romantasy before, you know this trope, you know how it goes. Anton takes Vasalie to his room and he apologizes. He didn't think about where he put Vasalie in. We do the one bed, the sharing of the bed trope. Vasalie is wary. She doesn't trust Anton, right? And she worries, like, what if he's gonna do something? So Anton brings out this bottle of, I forgot, like an oil sort of, that he's allergic to, and he puts it on his skin, shows Vasalie, he goes red right away. Anton takes a sword, coats the sword with this oil thing, and puts the sword between them on the bed. So he says, basically, this is your protection. If I so much as move closer to you, I'll get cut, and the oil that I'm allergic to is basically poison to me. So they do that. They share the bed. There's a sword between them. And then we get another nightmare scene. Now it's Anton having a nightmare. He wakes up very rigid, and Vasalie notices this. She takes out the sword, puts it aside, and comforts Anton. Again, it is a sweet moment. It's nice. It's tropey, but it's used to show vulnerability between the two characters. I get it, but it feels a little sudden because there's no build up to this. At this point, Vasalie still doesn't trust Anton. Once Anton is comforted, they go back to sleep. They wake up. Anton realizes, like, oh, you know, you moved the sword. They have a conversation where Vasalie brings up the glory court again. I've seen reviews that say, like, if I hear glory court one more time. And yeah, it's frustrating not only because it sounds silly, but because it's very obvious what the glory court actually is. From that scene where Anton bought all those prisoners, you kind of would guess what the glory court is, but Vasalie doesn't think that. She just believes that the glory court is like an unwilling harem for Anton. So she brings this up again, and Anton is like, this again? And he's about to explain what it actually is, but then they get interrupted by his guard. Anton needs to go someplace else, blah blah blah. They separate for the day. He gives Vasalie a different dress so that there's no walk of shame thing. Anton says he's gonna keep looking for evidence. Vasalie says sure, and then basically they go on to keep working together, continue on with the gathering. Vasalie goes to the dance practice room, and Copeland is there, like sitting on the floor. He's in a bad mood because Copeland was looking for Vasalie. I don't know why. I don't remember why. She was not in her room, even if it's like super late in the night. And then a servant comes to him with Vasalie's clothes from the other night. And the servant says, we found it in Anton's rooms. So now Copeland is like, what's going on? He warns Vasalie again about not getting involved with the crown, especially because Anton has this reputation. So Copeland is like, he's not good. He's not good for you. You should stay away. While they're doing this, Vasalie doesn't get a chance to reply because Anton shows up. He's eating an apple. He's back to his like mask, and he says he's going to oversee the last dance. Copeland has this idea. They already set like a theme for the dance, but Anton is like, no, I don't want that. Think of something else. Vasalie comes up with this idea to dance about the Fate of Morta. So basically, the Fate of Morta is like one of their deities. Gets mentioned a lot throughout the book because in Illian's palace, there's a lot of Fate of Morta statues and the decoration. And then there's this mythology about Aramis, the only man who escaped the Fate of Morta. So the Fate of Morta is basically a death deity. She is basically the Grim Reaper. So when a person dies, the Fate of Morta comes in wearing the face of your loved ones. So that way you can't resist going with her, which means dying. Aramis is the only person who was able to resist Morta because the first time he died, Morta was wearing this face, but then Aramis was not attached to that face, so he was able to say no. So he lived. He came back from the dead. And this happens several times in his lifetime until the Fate of Morta find out that the one image that Aramis couldn't resist was his own reflection. So we get a bit of like Narcissus thing going on. So the next time Aramis dies, the Fate of Morta uses a mirror. Aramis sees his reflection and he goes with Morta. So he dies. Frequently, this mythology is called back throughout the book. The way this is written, it's written as some exposition regarding the world building, but because it's repeated many times, it kind of signals that it's gonna come up, that it's important to the plot. But we don't know why it's important until we get that info dump from Laurent, where he says that there is trouble going on. Illian doesn't agree with the alliance with Razam. There was prophets that were delayed. Apparently a prophet was able to speak a prophecy that was confirmed. So the way they know if a prophecy is confirmed is if there's like fire coming out of the mouth of the prophet who says it. Laurent tells Vasalie that something like that happened. And then we don't really hear about it again. That's why I forgot to mention that before. But yeah, so they're gonna do a Fate of Morta themed dance. Anton is like, oh, I like that idea. Let's go with it. Copeland tries to say no because like everything was already set up for the original plan. But Vasalie's like, well, no, we can keep the clothes. We can repurpose this and that. Anton says, sure, I have a gown for you to wear. Yeah, Anton makes this dress made with glass pieces and like there's a tiara. Vasalie goes to a room to check the dress and then she sees Laurent is there. She's surprised that Laurent is there and she's also scared at his reaction because this is the first time. So this is at 75%. This is the first time that they've seen each other since she betrayed him and he was taken to the prison, right, and held there for until now, basically. So Vasalie starts apologizing and then Laurent, he just accepts her right away because Anton told him everything that, yeah, Vasalie poisoned him, but she also came to me and offered to testify regarding his innocence. Like, it's not completely cleared yet. Anton broke him and Bridget's daughter out of prison and snuck him into the palace so he can help make the Morta gown. Laurent says, we know everything, we'll help you. There's another exposition that Laurent does. They're talking about the gown, right? So the gown is made of glass, which is basically a symbol for Antonis at this point because, you know, his city is just full of glass. It's his innovation. It was supposed to be a wedding gown for Anton's fiance, but the fiance broke it off just when they were close to getting married. So it was like a political marriage, but the fiance broke it off. And now they're using the gown to turn it into the Fate of Morta gown. Laurent says, it's almost as if His Majesty wants to make a statement. King Illian has made not one but several attempts on his life ever since he was barely out of adolescence. Their feud has been long and arduous, yet still Anton lives. Thus, by putting you, his brother's so-called pet, in a gown of glass, he is telling Illian that he hasn't only cheated death, he has cheated him. And then Gustav is also there. He says, almost as if he turned his own jewel against him. And I mentioned there's a lot of telling, there's a lot of exposition. It sounds like this. The characters just tell you what is going on. There is no subtext. Like, looking at the gown right away, you kind of get it. Yes, because Glass and Anton has been mentioned together throughout the book. You don't need this exposition. You don't need the characters to explain to you the subtext. If you want Laurent and Gustave to make a comment about this, make it seem like, oh, we're in on it and we approve, they could have talked about it a different way. Here, it's just spoon-feeding you the intent of the dress. So there is no subtext anymore. It's just exposition. After checking out the dress, Vasalie goes to see Anton. Anton is in the balcony. He's like reading up on something. In the audiobook, this is 10 minutes after Laurent's exposition about the dress. So she goes to talk with Anton and asks, is there an update with the evidence? And Anton says, no, we're still working on it. And then suddenly they're kissing. I don't even remember what prompted this. Because Anton at one point stands up and gets really close to Vasalie. Let me play it.
The bodice is made from flat reflective shards, and the pattern wings upward like a hellebore in bloom, each petal veined by copper fretwork. Then, like a reflection in a lake, it fans out into the skirt, the bottom elongated with a train. You made this. I breathe. A shuffling comes from behind the statue, and Gustav's head peeks out. Vasalie? Vasalie! Clinking down a set of tools he runs over, his usual grin intact. What do you think? I've been helping Laurent with a steel-bone corset and bustle. We're almost finished. I think I am in a very strange, very surreal dream, I say, giving the gown another perusal. The glass beads fragment light the way the sun sparks across scales. Gustav chuckles. This was from a concept His Majesty began a few years back. It was meant to be a wedding gown one day, but he never completed it. He was planning to marry. It's the first I've heard of it. An uncomfortable feeling couches in my belly. A proposed arrangement since he was a boy that never came to fruition with the Lord Sovereign's niece, Princess Demi, Gustav says. They wrote letters. She visited often, but the summer they were made official. Right after his coronation, she called it off, and he's refused to speak of it since. I think it hurt him more than he wants to admit. Is she here? At the gathering? I ask. She's never attended. Not sure why, Gustav says, making another adjustment to the back of the gown. Look at that. Bustle's done. It will help lift the weight when we wear it. I dare to touch, dragging a finger along its uneven surface, down to where the pattern flares into the skirt. Those are made from Iranian glass, Gustav tells me. It's rarer than diamonds, made only when Mount Oran erupts every 20 years or so. Not particularly durable, so we can't use it for much else, but stunning for a gown such as this. Mount Oran, a small volcanic mountain on an island north of Assam. I don't know what to say, I tell him. It's exquisite, but it hardly seems worth the trouble. Indeed, Laurent says. It's almost as if His Majesty wants to make a statement. At my questioning glance, he shrugs. King Illian has made not one but several attempts on his life, ever since he was barely out of adolescence. Their feud has been long and arduous, yet still Anton lives. Thus, by putting you, his brother's so-called pet, in a gown of glass, he is telling Illian that he hasn't only cheated death, he's cheated him. Almost as if he turned his own jewel against him, Gustav says. I wrap my arms around my ribs. Despite Anton's flirtation, I haven't let myself believe he wants me for anything beyond thwarting his brother. Hearing Laurent's speculation is only further confirmation. But I am not a thing to be taken or turned against anyone. I am my own, and I deserve justice as much as he. Then, Gustav's and Laurent's words hit me. His brother's so-called pet, his own jewel. You two know everything, then? Laurent smiles sadly. He grabs my hands, squeezing them with his own. I only wish I could help. I turn to Gustav. I owe you an apology, too. But he waves me off. I understand the stakes for you. I do not follow through on our king's orders. His smile is so kind it hurts. Take comfort, my lady Vasalie, in knowing you are on the right side. King Anton is a good man. I believe you, I say, rubbing my arms. And I do, especially after last week. It's just that I thought the same of his brother, who had me fooled for years. It's hard to forget that. Illian had many of us fooled for.
That was actually a good point. One thing that I like about her mistrust, it makes sense. Illian treated her like a princess, like she was a treasure, but then he so easily framed her for murder and locked her up for 2 years. So it's easy to understand why she couldn't trust Anton fully. But at this point, there's also like the romance going on. So they're supposed to have that contradiction happening, you know, with enemies to lovers, like, oh, I'm so drawn to him, but I can't trust him, that kind of thing. But at this point, like, if you've read a lot of romanticists, you kind of know where this goes anyway. It doesn't feel like the stakes are there.
Gustav says, drawing my eye. At my quizzical glance, he explains, I grew up in the palace. My mother and his are cousins, if you can believe it. You were raised alongside them, I say. Illian never spoke of his mother, let alone his past beyond his strenuous relationship with his brothers.
So that's 76%. We are now learning that Gustav has royal blood. It will come up later on. Anyway, I was trying to find...
There's notes on his life, ever since he was barely out of adolescence. Their feud, indeed. He was Queen Soskia's favorite. For a long time, I couldn't understand why she never favored her eldest. At least now we know why. Illian was her eldest by blood. But though she doted on Illian, soul, she smothered him too. She forced him into lesson upon lesson, while his brothers gallivanted through Miridran in whichever way they so pleased. She practically ignored Anton's existence altogether. And Illian, I don't think I ever saw him without a book in hand. And by the fates, even as a boy, he never learned to smile. His whole life was centered around a single purpose, preparing for the throne. I remember Anton and I overheard him and Queen Saskia once, after he was caught skipping a lesson. It was, Gustav counts his fingers, 2 years before she passed. She berated him relentlessly. It didn't matter that he had always intended to step down as crown prince. Then everything would go to Illian automatically. That was not enough for her. Illian had to earn it, prepare. And so he did. But then King Junian split the kingdom, I say, after all Illian's hard work. Yes, after spending time with Razan with her grace, the two grew close. Closer than Queen Saskia was comfortable with. She didn't like it. Misunderstood it even because it was never romantic, but even she couldn't convince her husband to abandon his plans before the gathering took place. She died that year. Once the announcement was made, Illian grew bitter. In some ways, I understand. Illian thought he was owed Miridran in its entirety. He had prepared for it all his life, to the exclusion of all else. It had been promised to him. I too know what it's like to be raised solely for a purpose, a commodity more than a child. It's almost enough for me to feel sorry for the boy Illian was. But not quite. I think of the attempt Illian made on Anton's life. I had accused Anton of carousing, and while that is true, his adolescence was also spent simply trying to stay alive. I do not know the nightmares that followed him to sleep, but I suspect they are many. I wonder if they might be as vicious, as numerous as mine. I know what it's like to feel lonely and stifled by the dark. He surrounded himself with good people, Gustav, Laurent, Vasalie. The company one keeps is an indication of character, yet I sense that they might not fully comprehend the depth of his pain, and he in turn chooses to shield them from it. His brothers, his mother, and even his future wife rejected him, all in their own ways. And with the pressure of a kingdom on his back. Please, I need to see him, I say.
Okay, that's a whole lot of exposition. They just don't explain the motive of the dress. They also explain Illian's backstory, why Illian is the way he is now. They also explain Anton's reluctance to get involved with people. Like, the narrative, the narration is very in Vasalie's head. It's all her thinking things, her coming to conclusions, her telling her assumptions about people, kind of like this one. Like, what if Anton is actually pushing people away and not letting them close? So she's telling you all this, but do we actually see Anton pushing people away? I don't think so. The way he interacts with his guard Vasalie, it's very casual, it's very familiar, and you only get that casualness if you're close. He trusts Vasalie as well, because Vasalie was the one who knocked when they were in bed together, like during the nightmare scene. Vasalie knew Vasalie was there. Vasalie knew the alliance with Vasalie. So there's a level of trust, definitely. Is Anton really distancing himself from his people? We have Gustav and Laurent. Anton busted Laurent out of prison. That doesn't say, I don't care about you. That action doesn't say, I'm pushing you away. I don't want you to get close. It says the opposite. His action says that he cares for his people. We see as well at the banquet, he's very close with the queen. He's very close with the people. He doesn't treat them as less than. He doesn't lord his, crown over them. And with his line as well to Vasalie at the very beginning, get to know the people here. You might like them more than your allies. From his actions and from his words, Anton is very much close to the people kind of person, and he explains as well that the reason why he was successful at stopping a war between Miridran and Razan was that he himself went to speak with the queen and just listened to her grievances. That was it. He went there, he listened, and then he was able to understand the queen's stance and was able to defend her position. So that's why they're great friends with Queen Sadira. Those are not actions of a man who doesn't care.
And with the pressure of a kingdom on his back. Please, I need to see him, I say. He's on the balcony off his room last I checked. Gustav says, a coy smile brimming. I believe you know where that is. The balcony where he perched me on the balustrade and broke my spiral of anxiety and fear. Where he said, you are art. Somehow I don't even mind that Gustav knows.
Okay, so just a quick note about that. Gustav, for some reason, knows what happened, or maybe a summary or a hint of what happened, which the only way he could have known was Anton told him. So again, that doesn't sound like the actions of a man who wants to push people away. Anyway, just about that part where during the nightmare, Vasalie says, I am broken, and Anton says, you are art. This is supposed to be like a romantic line. I'm sorry, but I couldn't take it seriously because I get it. He is drawn to her artistic spirit. He is drawn to her dancing and how she's very creative with her dancing. But what I've seen so far about her dancing is very limited. Aside from those scenes like at the audition, the first dance, the dance with Copeland where he kissed her, and her giving suggestions about the themes and the outfits, the colors, I don't really see the creative spirit. What is so special about her creativity aside from using flour or dyed flour or flour with glitter on it? I don't fully see it. It's probably because we don't really see on page what she does for her dances aside from using meal and flour. And then when we have the dances, the narration describes the story of the dance. It's interpretative dancing. We get to know like the story of the dance and how a movement shows that dance. But I don't see the specialness of her choreography, of her using flour. So when we have this line that says you are art, technically so would Copeland. So would Copeland's former partner. What is so special about Vasalie, about her using meal and flour, about her creativity that is above and beyond the creativity of the other performers that are there? Because there are a lot of performers, right? There's enough performers to perform for each court at the same night. So what is so impressive about her? I don't really know. So when he says you are art, it feels cheesy. It feels a bit shallow. It feels just like sweet words. If he said you are a non-glass, the glass that was used for the dress, that is rare and special, as Laurent says, then yes, that would make sense because we already have a connection with Anton and the glass industry. So him saying you are around glass, something like that, something that has a connection with him, I think I would believe it more. It would be nice as well because if he said you're like around glass, and at that point Vasalie wouldn't know anything about it, but then she comes to find the dress and Laurent explains that this glass from Mount Aran is very rare, very precious, then it would click. It would have that emotional, oh, that's what he meant. That's how he sees her. But no, we get this, you are art, which is vague. It lands as shallow. I'm just gonna play.
Aside from the orange light of the hearth, the doors leading to the balcony spread open. I find Anton on a lounge, the breeze toying with his loose hair. He's propped up, nose buried in a book, a small lantern flickering a soft glow onto the page. A pair of endearing spectacles are perched on the bridge of his nose.
First mention of Anton wearing glasses feels random.
He's so engrossed that he doesn't even notice me. My heart whirls like a carousel in my chest, a gyre of feelings that make it seem like the balcony is tottering beneath me, like the palace might topple, crumble, and me with it. I haven't known him for long, but something about the sight of him dispels the last of my reservations. Here and perhaps always, he is just a boy, a curious boy who loves to learn, to laugh, to save. A boy chased by nightmares, even when he's awake. A sly little curve turns his lips without him glancing up, enjoying the view, you know. Embarrassment suffuses me. I wring my hands idling awkwardly by the door. It's been days, sire. You said you were gathering proof, and I was worried. I have been, he says, grin softening. I need another day or two at most, and we have just over a week before the gathering ends. I nod, but it does little to ease my anxiety. Placing his book down, he rises and strides toward me. My stomach swoops, and I find myself blurting, I am not a thing to be used. Tenderly, he cradles my jaw with his hands and leans his forehead against mine. You are not, he whispers. His thumbs are smooth as they graze my cheeks, as if he can sense the war inside me. And when his nose brushes mine, I can do little more than inhale him for long moments. I want to close up the world, forget who he is yet again. And here, sharing breath, I almost can. His scent fills my lungs. A welcome, a warning. My hands move without my consent, wrapping around his waist. I lean my head against his heart, feeling the way it beats, races. For me. He cups my head, bringing my gaze back to his, and something about the gesture is irrevocably tender. A need shivers through me, one I don't even fully understand. May I kiss you for real this time, you know, he whispers, tucking a spiral of hair behind my ear with his free hand. We shouldn't, I think. Please, I think. I twist my hands into his tunic and nod, only when I glance up, he doesn't move. Well, I prompt at last. I'm not going to do it when you're expecting it. Menace, I say. I yank him toward me. He presses his lips onto mine. If there was a game between us, it vanishes. I tug him closer as if I could burrow inside him, and then he's challenging my force with his own, his other hand pressing against the small of my back, and all I can think of is desire. Desire to be closer, to... His arms come underneath me, and then he's sweeping inside, situating me on the dresser beside the door. His hands gripping on either side of my legs.
Yeah, so after that random steamy scene that again feels kind of, well, at this point I see where it's coming from because they had that moment in the brothel. This is just like a continuation of that tension. If we had more build up before the brothel, before all the flirting happened, then I would have no problems with this. For me, it's the build up of their attraction that is lacking. Right after this moment, they leave. Vasalie remembers that Illian was forging letters, and she remembers that when she poisoned Gustav, a servant that is working for Illian came in and went to Anton and went out with a box in hand. So Vasalie now remembers that Illian was forging letters under Anton's name. She was poisoned at the time, so I get it that she might have forgotten, but it feels very convenient that she now remembers it. Like, what if she didn't remember at all? What then? But yeah, it seems convenient, but I'll give it a pass because she was poisoned at that time. But also at that time, she was able to follow what was happening with Anton, Gustav, and the servant who came in and went out. Things progress in the background. We get another dance performance. This is the Fate of Morta dance. So she's wearing the gown. She's in this glass dress. The dress has a tiara, like there's a headpiece with it. And at the middle of the headpiece is like shards of mirror. And they are sharp enough to be daggers. So there's like 2, I think, in the middle. And it can come out and be used as daggers. The description is flowery. But again, I can't picture it in my mind clearly. It's like doing too much for the least. Anyway, yeah, one of the headpieces can come off. It can be used as a dagger. Vasalie is touched by this because when they forged their alliance, Anton said he couldn't promise her protection, but he could arm her. That was sweet. After this Fate of Morta performance, Copeland and Vasalie danced. Everything went great. Everyone is happy. King Illian gets on stage and he thanks everyone for coming, and he says that this is, a chance to honor our alliance and this is a really important gathering, but there's a traitor among us. So after this, it's good vibes. Everyone loved the performance. And then Illian comes in with this news that Anton has betrayed them all. Illian claims he and Queen Sadira were planning a war against the syndicate, like the allied nations. I just think it's such an abrupt mood change. Like, this is one of the big dances. It was set up as this big thing, but then I didn't really expect King Illian to go on stage right after and just casually publicly announce that Anton was planning all this. I think this is because we don't really see the scheming going on. We only see what Vasalie sees, and it's very limited. She doesn't even try to get information, but we know in the background Illian is up to something. We know that Anton is making his own counter moves, but we don't really know what's going on. So yeah, now and then King Illian makes his final move against Anton. Anton is nowhere to be seen. He was supposed to be there because he told Vasalie that it was kind of a big thing for him. He wants to see Vasalie in the dress, do the performance, blah, blah, blah. While Illian is making this speech, Vasalie escapes. She sneaks away from her guards because at this point she was being watched over by Illian because Illian now knows that she has something going on with Anton. She sneaks off. She thinks, I have to stop Illian. I have to do something. I have to warn the Brisdale king that he's gonna get assassinated. Because when Vasalie and Anton were at the brothel, they found out that the general and Illian are gonna kill the Brisdale king, and the general will marry the princess, and then he's gonna become king. That's what they found out. Sorry, I forgot to say. But yeah, so now Vasalie thinks, I need to warn the king. So the way she does this is she gets her dad's, the general's hat. She finds it on his seat or something. She takes the hat, takes one of the dagger crowns, and pins the hat on the West Miridran flag. And I'm thinking, if you see the West Miridran flag and the general's hat pinned on the flag, what message do you think that says? Because what Vasalie was trying to say was West Miridan and the general are in cahoots and they plan to assassinate the king. For me, if I see that, I'm not sure what to make of it. First of all, would everyone know who the hat belongs to? Is it a hat that is specific to the general of Brisendale? How can pinning the hat to the West Midronian flag tell everyone that they are coming for the Brisendale king? I'm not really sure. Again, we have the case of there are rich descriptions. The prose is flowery, but sometimes I just don't know what it's trying to convey, or what it's trying to convey is not really clear through the images. Vasalie does that, leaves a message, and then she goes to the shore. This is one of the another instances that her chronic illness is brought up, but she eventually manages to get back. She goes to the tunnels. Her goal now is to find Anton, and she finds him in Illian's room, chained to the chandelier. But there are guards there. So Vasalie makes a noise in the tunnel. The guards investigate. She trips him, and then the guard knocks himself out by hitting his head on the wall. He trips, hits his head, completely knocked out. The second guard comes to investigate. She uses the other dagger and stabs him, and then he's taken out. At this point, I'm just thinking, it seems like the chronic illness comes and goes depending on what the plot needs. Previously, she had a hard time swimming, and now she just casually knocks out 2 guards. In the beginning, the way the chronic illness was dealt was really good, I think. It's very immediate. We see what Vasalie has to deal with, what she has to face now that her body is not the way it used to be. But then in the middle, we don't see that anymore. She just says, oh, I got tired. I'm gonna be tired tomorrow for this choreography, but I'll push through. It's not consistent how her illness shows up. We don't even see her hardships in dancing. One of the talks that she has with Anton says like, I see how you hide your pain when you perform. I see how you cover up for the mistakes, how you push yourself through the pain. Okay, that's nice that he saw that, but the readers didn't really get to see that. So it feels like her hardships with the chronic illness is there when the plot wants to make a point out of it, but then it goes away when it's convenient, when we need Vasalie to succeed, which is it's just convenient plotting. Chronic illness, you don't really get to choose when it flares up. You don't really get to choose when you're okay. That's the thing with chronic illness. It's there, it stays forever. There's no cure, and you just have to manage your life around it. The way Vasalie is shown dealing with her illness is very inconsistent. It just seems like it's very convenient for it to disappear when she needs to be physical, and then it appears when there's no real stake. Like, we don't even see her like stumble in one of the performances and maybe embarrass herself and maybe jeopardize Illian's plans, and she gets consequences about that. We don't get any of that. She's just tired, but she pushes through it, which is admirable on one part, but at the same time, there's no impact from the chronic illness. Like, I'm not saying she should suffer all the time as well. I'm just saying that because the chronic illness was a main part of her character and her story, it should have been consistent throughout the book, and it should have had impact. But all that to say, like, she just knocked out 2 guards easily. And like tripping, that doesn't really take a lot of strength, but she fought with the water, she swam, and then she had to go through the tunnels. So at this point, she should be like out of breath. Her heart should be close to bursting. But no, she managed to take out 2 guards, one by like stabbing him, and presumably that would take skill, that would take a bit of strength. But no, Vasalie just says, oh, it's dark, but I'm used to moving in the dark. Yeah, but you also have chronic illness, you have chronic fatigue, so where is that now? After just swimming and then running through the castle, going into the tunnels. So Vasalie goes into the room. Anton is like, you shouldn't be here, you should go. Anton tries to have Vasalie take a necklace from him and leave, but Vasalie won't leave him. She tries to cut him down from the chandelier, but she's not able to do it. She runs out of time. Illian and the guards come in. Illian threatens her. Illian has more tasks for Vasalie to do. Vasalie has to kill the king of Brissendale. Vasalie, of course, tries to say no. That's a line that she shouldn't cross. Either Vasalie kills the king of Brissendale or Illian kills Anton. And Anton is trying to tell Vasalie no, like, don't take the deal. He can't really harm me. That's what Anton says. But Vasalie takes the deal. So we do the assassination. Again, we have Vasalie fairly easily sneaking in, finding the king of Brissendale. She just finds him so quickly. No guards to stop her, no questioning. The princess is there though. And the princess kind of does this like power move, like she shoves Vasalie against the wall and makes this like non-threat thing, and the princess is like, go do your job. So basically the princess is in on the plan. She knows that her dad is going to be killed, and she wants that because that way she can become the queen. Vasalie thinks then that, well, she can't really become queen because her dad would take control. She just thinks this and explains it to us via her inner thoughts. So the princess leaves. Vasalie continues on. Just when she sees the king, Illian comes in. So Illian is there, Vasalie is surprised, and then she's like, of course he's here. He is here to make sure that I will do my job. He's here to make sure that I won't fail. Illian kind of gestures overhead, and guards are there. So again, Vasalie says, okay, they're here to make sure that I actually go through with the plan. Vasalie sneaks in from behind. She thinks about what she's about to do because she knows that this is crossing a line. This is not the same as the other tasks. She kind of weighs her choices here, either do the murder, help Illian with his schemes, or let Anton die. She chooses Anton. So she goes and slit the king's throat. There's this moment again where the writing is present, it's active, it's on page, which is good. So yeah, now the king is murdered. There's commotion outside the door. Let's just read through that.
The guitar slips from my grip and clanks to the ground. I had forgotten I was still holding it. I face Illian, and for the first time I feel equal. We deserve each other, this king and I. He deserves my fate, and I deserve his. Shouts echo from nearby balconies. The observers Illian knew would have. Then from inside too, a moment before a bevy of guards sweep into the veranda.
Okay, so apparently Illian orchestrated this murder where there's going to be witness to the murder, which again, like, Illian is, judging from how things are going, Illian is a very good schemer. I guess he's been preparing this for years, but everything is just going according to Illian's plan. He's winning this. There are witnesses to the murder. Vasalie has to flee. What Illian does is throws her over the balcony. And then he calls in the guard, like, she jumped like this way, and she falls into the water, and then one of Illian's guards pulls her out. So it's very orchestrated. It's very planned. Vasalie says Illian knew where I would land. He sent a guard there so they can fish me out. Vasalie thinks, why me? Why not anyone else? She thinks someone else would have probably bailed out, and only a dark soul like mine could go through with this. So yeah, there's guilt. There's like feeling of I'm a terrible person for doing this. Again, there's this repetition of like, I'm a terrible person. I should have stopped this. I failed Emilia again. It's the same thing over and over, but Vasalie also doesn't do anything to change that. Around 88%. So Vasalie, now that she killed the king, she's like, now our job is done. Release me and release Anton. But Illian is like, well, actually you're not done yet. I still have something to do for you. And at this point, Vasalie realizes that Illian never meant to let her go. He's gonna keep finding ways to keep her there, which is, I think, a late time to realize this. So this task, Illian wants Vasalie to go with him to the wedding. So now that the king of Brisendale is dead, his daughter is taking the throne. While they're doing the funeral rites, they also announce like, okay, the daughter is taking the throne. She's gonna be officially crowned sometime after the gathering, but she's gonna marry the general right away. They marry. The now queen names Vasalie's dad a king. While they're having this wedding, the new Brisendale king kind of looks at Vasalie, and that's when Vasalie realizes like, he looked at me as if he knew where I would be. And then, yeah, the wedding is done, blah, blah, blah. And then the new king announces that there's more good news. Now that he's married, he also announces that his daughter is engaged to Illian. Vasalie is shocked that they knew all along. She's shocked, she's panicking, she's surprised, but she also does nothing. On one hand, they're in a public place. She says to herself that she can't really do anything because who would believe her? She just stays silent, lets her dad kind of give her away to Illian. We get this exposition that their betrothal has been years in the making. When Vasalie ran away, like when she was 13, she was about to get married to someone, right? But Emilia put a stop to that. Like, she told Vasalie to turn her away. It turns out the person that she was supposed to marry was Illian himself. There's this part at the 88% where Illian reminds Vasalie to behave, like to do what he says. And he says, one wrong move and he will pay. Anton, he means. Like, obviously, who else is Illian keeping hostage? There's this constant repetition, constant need to explain things. There is no subtext. I mean, this doesn't even need subtext. It's obvious who Illian is threatening. Who else is the he that keeps Vasalie in check? Vasalie endures the whole reception. She wants to puke as usual. Once they have private time, Illian makes this villain monologue to say that she tried to run away. She lived a hard life making a living from dancing when you could have been pampered all these years. Instead, you ran away only for you to end up with me again.
Anton finds my gaze when they return to Illian's antechamber. He frowns, checking me over, and when he finds no damage, he seems to breathe a sigh of relief. But no relief swells within me. Illian was right. I have more to lose, and he didn't just mean Anton or my friends. I had my arms around myself, eyeing the door set ajar, cracked to reveal the four-poster bed beyond. Beside me, Illian waltzes in, his smile thin. Glad to see you alert, little brother. I am eager to share my news. Don't tell me you have something interesting to say for once. Illian doesn't take the bait. Instead, he brandishes my wrist, displaying the blood-red diamond glittering from my finger. Divine, isn't it? Just like my bride-to-be. He runs a cold knuckle along my cheek. And as subtle as it might be, he doesn't miss the twitch of Anton's lips. So you do have more than a passing interest in her. I have an interest in not imprisoning women and being a complete maggot every second of every day. Anton shoots back. I give him an exasperated look as if to say, do you have a death wish? Oh, I think it's more than that. Illian circles behind me, raising his lips along the crescent of my neck, and when Anton's jaw tightens, I feel Illian smile against the curve of my shoulder. I jerk away, but I don't get far. He uses a ribbon on my gown to pull me back. You said you'd set him free, I played my part, and I did. I hiss. If you wish me to have even a shred of respect for you when this is all over, you will let him go. If my words affect him, he doesn't show it, letting his fingers skim my ribs. Anton follows them with his gaze, jaw working until Illian pauses at the jeweled button on my skirt. See, that's just it, my jewel. Your role is not yet over. He yanks it off. Fabric comes loose, the skirt fluttering down my legs. Anton thrusts forward, but the chandelier rattles, forcing him to stop lest it fall. What was it I told you all those months ago? Illian trudges on, his fingers edging toward my throat, and it takes everything in me not to lose control of my bladder. Yes, I told you your last evening would be spent with me. You still owe me a performance, Bastiana, and you just said you wish me to keep my word. With that, he tugs a ribbon on my back, and another layer of silk sinks to the floor. Cold air grazes my shoulders, my collarbone. I'm left in nothing but a minuscule bustier, and a wide sash hugging my hips like a skirt showing high on my thighs. Turns out, he says to Anton, you're not the only one who can construct a gown. His poor job if it's falling apart. Illian's laugh is caustic. He always had that soul's awful sense of humor. It must vex you, Anton says, that she would never have chosen you of her own free will. Illian merely shrugs. I have her, all the same. You do realize you can pay someone to fist the brakes. Less hassle, more willingness. Hatred does not last forever. In time, she will learn that I can please her as well as any. What? You think your extra limb's the size of a gourd or something? You can't overcompensate your way into her favor when you're the very definition of a rectum. Jealousy suits you well, Anton. This is what Illian wanted all along. It wasn't just me he was after. He wanted power, yes, but that wasn't enough. He tried to have Anton assassinated time and again, and so it never would have been enough for him to win. No, he wanted to flaunt his prize in front of the brother he loathes. It might be the only reason Anton is still alive. Illian doesn't intend to let him go. He brought him here so that he might watch this, and then he will no doubt finish what he failed to do before. He might even make me do it.
So again, we have Vasalie just explaining things. through her thoughts, no subtext. As this goes on, Vasalie tries to like convince Illian that she's gonna do whatever he wants if he frees Anton. Kind of like that scene in Rapunzel where Rapunzel tells Mother Gothel that I won't fight, I won't run away, just let me heal him. That vibe, that thing, Vasalie does it here. I'll do whatever you want, just free Anton. But she's lying because she's saying these things just to manipulate Illian. But it doesn't work.
I do love anything that comes from these lush, rosy lips, even if they're lies. Casually, he paces to the bar and pours himself a drink. I did make a promise to set you free, he says, angling his chin toward Anton. He empties his glass in a few quick gulps, then planks it down. It's one I intend to keep. When he turns, he offers me a careless grin. Too late. I see the intent in his eyes. In one swift motion, Illian yanks the halberd from Damon's hands and smashes the lever holding the pin on the crank. The chain holding the chandelier in place whips free, unspooling in a blink, and the chandelier drops onto Anton like 1,000 spears, impaling him onto the carpet below. Chapter 39. A scream tears from my lips so loud and agonized that my vision flashes white. I throw myself down next to Anton. He's pinned on his back, legs protruding about angles, shards sticking his ribs, the soft flesh of his stomach. A large one pierces his right arm. Blood wells running in rivulets into the carpet, soaking its weft. It's everywhere, everywhere. Anton sputters, struggling to breathe. If I could just lift one side of the chandelier, but if I do, he will bleed out. Anton, I hear myself sob. I feel so far from my body. This is a nightmare, sent from the fate of Morta, worse than any time in any cell, worse than broken bones and stolen time. It's all right, he manages, his green eyes capturing mine. But I can't accept this, I can't. Vas, he wheezes, eyes widening. Vas. A hand grabs my hair, ripping me away. I crash into a wall, and then Illian looms over me, his arms caging me in like the bars of a cell. Never will another man's name be on your lips, he growls. Angry heat surges through my veins, and something inside me snaps, shatters, chars. I am a wildfire, and I intend to burn. He tears at my bodice, but he doesn't see my hands. I find a small sack attached to my side. He did always love my Millen. He'd been anticipating a private performance when he built this gown. I open it and fling Millen into his face. It blinds him in an ash-gray cloud. As he cries out, I yank off a ribbon holding the sash around my waist, throw it around his neck, squeeze. In a blink, the guards are upon me, Damon included. They tear my hands away as Illian sputters and chokes, angry red swabs patching his face. His gaze slices toward mine, aflame with fury. Then his features warp into something unrecognizable, and I know that I will not survive this night. Sana jerks me back, throwing my wrists into shackles. To my surprise, her hands are trembling as much as mine. She too had seen what he did. She has been witness to all of this. Sana, please, I breathe, knowing it's useless, but I have to try. And then she does something I don't expect. Her eyes latch onto mine deliberately as she leaves the manacles unlocked. You will spend every day back in that decrepit cell. Illian hurls my way, and every day Eamon will visit you with his sword in his fists, and he will keep visiting you until you are so thoroughly broken you no longer remember who you are or where you came from. Then, and only then, will I come for you. The problem with that, brother, says a weak voice from the floor, is that you haven't yet won. I whirl. A pained grin slides across Anton's face. Then, perhaps by a strike of fate, something vibrates in the walls. Something that sounds an awful lot like an otherworldly growl. The doors are thrown wide, and a roar like thunder bellows into the room. All the guards, Eamon and Sana included, whip around, swords out, but they are woefully outmatched against a massive jaws stacked with dagger-sharp teeth. Ishu rips into the two guarding the entrance, the seal behind her. Shouts erupt. Blood bathes the walls, even the ceiling. Several guards race around Illian, barricading him, while the others fight a flurry of claws and steel. I stand frozen.
Okay, so we're at the 94%. This is the part where the action is good because it's written as immediate. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of literal action going on. It does quicken a bit here. So Laurent and Gustave and even Copeland, they barge into the room. They save Vasalie. Yeah, so I don't know how. Apparently they were imprisoned for being part of Anton's court, but they were freed. I'm not sure how. But they go to the balcony. Laurent is at the lower level and he has a rope for escape. But before Vasalie has the chance to get the rope, Illian is there. He puts a dagger to her throat. He's like, you're not leaving without me. He orders Laurent to hand the rope to him or else he'll cut Vasalie's throat. They're at an impasse. Laurent hesitates for a bit, but Illian draws blood. So eventually Laurent does hand the rope to Illian. They tie it to balcony. Vasalie manages to stab Illian in the leg. She finds a dagger and
I slam into him, wrestling him down, nails carving into the flesh of his arms. The dagger falls from his hands, clattering against the stone and sliding a few inches away. I scramble toward it. Laurent is yelling my name. A sharp pain pierces my thigh, and a cry dries my lungs. Rough hands flip me onto my back. Illian hovers over me, my dagger in hand. The very one I used to slice his flag. Thanks to you, I had a backup on hand. It kicks me the dagger off the balcony. You will die for this, Laurent bellows from below. Throw me the rope, Illian says simply, or I will finish her off while you watch. Lights swing through my peripheral vision. I fight to remain conscious. My stomach empties onto the stone. When I glance up, I find Illian banding the rope around the railing. He knows I will not get far with the wound he inflicted. The pain is blinding, burning, as if the dagger had been made of molten rock. But my body is familiar with pain. I drag myself up, using balustrade for support. A strange sort of trepidation settles thickly in my lungs, an ominous feeling I've felt only once before, when Emilia died. It's like a shadow, cold and hollow, sickly sweet. Breathing through the anguish of a hole in my leg, I say a silent prayer, knowing that this time, the fate of Morta is close enough to hear. End this. Take us both. Enough blood has been spilled today. The floor is marbled in it. Surely she is satisfied, especially now that I offer her my life. Illian whips toward me, his face stained pewter, a remnant of the Millen I threw him. He raises my bustier with a glass dagger, then pockets it, knowing I'm too weak to run. I'm going to tie us together. I want you to know that someday, somehow, I will find a way to kill you. I kill him. My life may be in your hands, but one day I will break free.
I'm playing this at 2.25 speed, by the way, and this is the speed, like normal speed.
He doesn't even flinch. You fail to frighten me, Vastiana. I'm going to call your bluff, brother. Brother. I freeze. Everything tunneling to that voice. That voice. It is both familiar and altogether impossible. I must be hallucinating, losing blood. The rope falls from Illian's hands. And when I manage to lift my head, I see him. He looks the way he did when I left him alone before an audience the first night of the gathering.
Okay, so yeah, Anton comes back to life. Because remember, there was a rumor that he fell from a mountain and came back to life. Yeah, like Aramis, he managed to cheat the Fate of Morta. Apparently, when Anton died for the first time, the Fate of Morta wasn't able to get a face that Anton would follow because apparently Anton doesn't love anyone. I was waiting for this to happen, actually, because it does get repeated. So yeah, he is back to life. Everyone is shocked except for Gustave and Laurent, because apparently they know. And again, I question, how come Anton is considered a man who doesn't love anyone, a man who keeps pushing people away, when clearly he trusts Gustave and Laurent very much. He treats them as a real friend would. So that's not a man who, who pushes people away, who doesn't love anyone. Illian is very surprised and he says like, what did you seduce the Fate of Morta? And then we get to this part. I will just play it.
Nausea that warps my vision. I don't hear myself cry out, but I feel it in my throat. A strange scent fills my nostrils. I try to open my mouth to warn Anton about the rope, that Illian has an escape, but cannot. Illian! Anton thunders. For the first time his eyes catch mine, but I'm too hazy to latch onto them. Bargain with me if nothing else. Trade me for her. Lock me up. Leave me in a dungeon to rot. Whatever you want. No. Illian, I wheeze. It takes everything in me to push it out. Understand this. My throat burns. My mouth feels as if it holds a bucket of steam. Still, I force my voice through. Your jewels are not enough. Your power is not enough. You are rich in diamonds, but poor in spirit. You are lacking. Another tight breath, and then, he does not envy you. I do not want you. You are but dust in the wind, here and gone again. I feel the spike of his pulse. I made my mark. The strange scent grows heavier, filling every pore on my skin like a coat of melon. He shifts the dagger lower, his hand trembling, the tip edging just under my ribs. Pain splices through me in a dizzying rush. And I see it there, the want in his gaze, the outrage. He shakes with it, shakes with the need to push that dagger up and underneath my ribs, even as he refuses to do it. For all he would hurt me, I am a belonging he will never release. And he will stall until his men arrive or use me to escape. That I cannot allow. There's a whistling in the wind, a howling, a soughing that I feel in my soul. The sky is dark as dried blood, ready to devour. I spin and put my arms around Illian's neck like a noose. Today, I claim him. Today, I take his hand. I am no longer his victim. I will be the Fate of Morta, and I will bring him death. Anton's shouts come on the wind. Vasalie, no! I tip us both over the balustrade. Let my weight plummet backward, and pull him over with me.
Yeah, we have Vasalie saying she can't tell Anton that Illian has a rope, he has an escape. And then after that, she goes on about this poetic roast. She goes on and on about it, like, you're not enough, blah, blah, blah. She makes a lot of metaphors. But I thought you couldn't speak. But I thought you couldn't even tell Anton that he has an escape. And yet you're making this poetic mic drop moment. I don't understand. Again, inconsistent. She was grappling with Illian for the knife a while ago, and now suddenly she's like all out of strength. If Vasalie's strength comes from willpower, it seems that that's the way it is, even with her dancing. She pushes through her pain so that she could dance. She's enduring the pain so she could take the knife away from Illian. So why can't she now endure the pain to tell Anton he has a rope, he has an escape? Why can't she now push away from him, maybe towards Anton? Instead, she uses her last bit of strength to like tip them over the balcony. Okay, I'm thinking like, how much strength do you need to have to tip someone over and yourself over the balcony? Because she's bleeding at this point. Her strength has been depleted from the fight and stuff like that. And yet she's able to tip a grown man who is not physically limited like she is. Unless the balcony is like really low and you can just throw yourself off balance, but presumably it's like waist high. It seems easy, but it's probably not easy to tip someone bigger and stronger than you over a waist high balcony railing, much less when you are bleeding, much less when you have chronic illness that makes you fatigue, that makes your muscles weak, that makes your heart rate above what's normal. I'm surprised that at this point that Vasalie's heart didn't just give out from all the stress and all the physical activity that happened in just this short moment. So yeah, Vasalie tips over the balcony, they fall. In her last moments of consciousness, she sees Illian right there, he's dead, his face is smashed in a rock. Vasalie is dying, she feels herself going. She sees this figure of a woman, she hears a voice, and it is Emilia. And then we go to the next chapter. So Vasalie wakes up and she's in this unknown place. She doesn't have a body, and we have the Fate of Morta herself coming in, and Anton is with her. So this is like a Disney Hercules moment where Hercules goes to Hades. He goes there to get Megara's soul. You know, Hades says, well, if you can jump in and get her, then sure, you can leave with her. There's no jumping in a pool of souls here, but it's sort of the same idea.
Does she know your truth? Or on the worlds to face me? Do you know the reason Anton has been able to return from my lair time and time again? Orania. I see she does not. To me, she says, you see, he never took my hand because he has never loved anyone. Not even a single soul. I've worn many faces, and yet he has always refused me. So that's how Anton did it. Aramis loved himself, and so he took his own hand. Anton loves no one. He never has. And despite whatever feelings I have toward him, it only makes my heart break. He loves no one. And I wonder if it's because no one has ever truly loved him. Because he hides his true self, keeps everyone at arm's length. I wish I could tell him that her efforts to turn me against him will not work. I hope he can see it in my eyes. But he merely dons his usual arrogance, a mask of surety that pulls his lips into an ever so slight grin. A compelling yet pointless argument, Morania, but I will not allow you to keep her here all the same.
There's that thought from Vasalie that she repeats again. You know, Anton doesn't love anyone, maybe because no one loved him before. Which is odd, because if you have been paying attention with Gustav, how his dynamic with Gustav and Laurent is, it seems very brotherly, especially with Gustav. There's a moment with Gustav where he and Anton playfully push each other, which is a very like friend or sibling dynamic. And then there's Laurent, who believes he is a good man. He trusts him, he kind of believes in him. And then we have Anton sharing secrets with these two. They know that he can't die. What exactly is Anton hiding from his friends? How is he not loved? How is he not loving anyone? My guess is that the love that they're saying is romantic love. We see platonic love. He's loved by his people, he's loved by his friends. He loves his friends, he takes care of them. And yet Fate of Morta doesn't have a face that Anton wants to go with. I'm just guessing here, like they're talking about romantic love. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. The action says something, the narrative says something else. And then now we get another exposition, this time from Anton. He brings out the necklace that he was trying to give to Vasalie when he was chained up on the chandelier. It turns out that was a glass that could see through the Fate of Morta's face. How does it do it? I don't know. It doesn't get explained. Anton and Gustav developed this lens after Anton managed to escape Morta the first time, because he says he knew that one day it's probably going to happen again. She's going to come for him and she's going to find a weakness. So he developed this lens that could see through her face. And then we have Vasalie like realizing and, you know, explaining things again. Oh, he was trying to give me this. He was trying to give me a chance to survive while risking his own life. When Anton died very recently from the chandelier, the Fate of Morta, this is revealed through exposition again, like Anton is talking. He tells the Fate of Morta like, yeah, it was clever of you to use Vasalie's face, but I have this jewel. You didn't even notice me using it. Again, there's another exposition of this character explaining their entire motive, their entire, like whatever they were doing throughout the book, explained as exposition. And then we have Vasalie listening to this and explaining again why Anton did the things. Like, we know it's over explained. Vasalie doesn't need to tell us Anton was trying to do this even though it would risk his life. We get from the exposition that was what was happening. So now the Fate of Morta wants half or part of Anton's soul. He wants the goodness and the comfort of his soul. And Vasalie thinks, well, wouldn't that leave all the bad things? And she thinks about the prophecy. The prophecy basically says that someone will ally with Morta and they will bring back Aramis, and then there's going to be blood and destruction and chaos. Vasalie learned of the prophecy through Anton. Anton just told her, like when they first forged their alliance, they thought that it was about Illian, but yeah, I think it's obviously not Illian. He has, you know, statues of Morta all over his palace, but that's like a flimsy tie. And then we have Anton, who actually has a rumor that he came back from the dead, a rumor that he doesn't really dispute. Even when Vasalie asked him, he just said, well, I woke up at the bottom of the cliff and smeared my blood and escaped. So he doesn't really say like, no, I didn't die or anything like that. Anton accepts the bargain. He gives the goodness and the comfort of his soul in exchange for Vasalie. So now Vasalie has her body. She's unconscious, but she has her body. Anton carries her out, you know, Hercules Megara style. They go out. Oh, this is not, we don't see this, by the way. We just get someone else to tell Vasalie. After Anton makes the deal, Vasalie falls, it goes black. And then the next part, she wakes up, she's in a desert, she's in an unknown room. Laurent is there, and Laurent jumps up happy. Oh, he's like, oh, my sweet Vasalie, you're okay, you're awake. Vasalie's like, where's Anton? What's going on? What happened? So again, Laurent summarizes everything that happened. Anton accepts the deal with the caveat that he should have one day with his court to explain what's going on. And then he would give part of his soul. So the Fate of Morta accepts, and then Vasalie falls and she's unconscious. He tells Vasalie, yeah, Anton carried you out of Morta's lair. He gave us instructions to do this and that. We had to flee to Razam. Now we need to talk. We need to make our move because we have plans to expose Illian and the general. But now Illian is dead. The general is preparing war, so we have to make our plans. The princess of Razam arrive. They explain more. They take her to this hallway where there's like photos, basically photos of evidences of Illian and general talking together, like the picture in the brothel, like when Anton took a picture. There are other photos as well. They call it stills, like a photo still. And yeah, they say that these are all our evidence. The queen managed to escape with it. The first time Illian accused Anton, the queen fled, right? And she took all the evidence, so it's all there in Razam. It's safe. They are just waiting for their next plan. Queen talks to Vasalie. We don't see the talk. We just go to the next chapter. Vasalie is going to Anton's room, and Anton is just like standing by the window, like not reacting. And Vasalie summarizes the talk with the queen. The queen told her that he's not the Anton that she knew. He remembers the gathering differently. You need to be careful. Anton's guard, he also warns Vasalie like you should keep your distance. Anton, he doesn't know Vasalie, so the way Vasalie thinks to juggle his memory is to kiss him. He kisses her back like very passionately, like he pushes her against the wall, kisses her neck. It's getting heated up, and then Anton pulls away and is like, who are you? you. Vasalie sees like a glint in his eyes that makes her think he's still there. She just needs to reach him. But then Anton closes off, his eyes glaze over, and he's back to the cold self. Yeah, sorry, I don't know you. If we slept together before, I don't remember. It happens a lot. I sleep with a lot of women, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, Vasalie has this hopelessness, but she's also angry, and she's determined to make Anton remember her. Anton gets angry at this point because he says he's been imprisoned in that room by who he thought was a friend, like Queen Sadira. But like during that day he has with the court, he ordered them to imprison him, to lock him up, because if he gets the crown and he doesn't have a soul, he might wreak havoc. It's part of his orders, but he doesn't remember anything. He doesn't remember Vasalie. Queen comes in, she says, it turns out that the goodness and the comfort, it was you. Vasalie, Morta took you away from him. So Vasalie was the goodness, was the comfort, and he doesn't remember Vasalie anymore. And that makes him an asshole for some reason. Like, wouldn't he just revert to the Anton before he met Vasalie? And from what we know, Anton wasn't like his brothers before he met Vasalie. Was he an asshole then? I don't think so, because he was saving people. He's been taking people who needed to disappear, giving them a new life, and that's what the Glory Court was all about. He was doing that before he met Vasalie. So would he not just return to his usual self? If he's angry that he's being imprisoned, I get it, because he doesn't understand why this is happening. He remembers the gathering differently, but why is there a risk that he's going to turn evil just because he doesn't remember Vasalie? The book ends where the guards are restraining Anton because he was getting upset, and then we have this line where Vasalie is like,
I will find another way, I say, my eyes locked on his. I will save you, Anton, like you saved me. This is my vow. I throw my hand around his neck and pull him down, pressing my promise onto his smirking lips. He doesn't notice the way I unhook the chain, the way the pendant falls into my free, open palm. If he could cheat death, I can certainly cheat a deal for my immortal king.
okay, so yeah, Vasalie is determined. Finally, she is doing something. Finally, she's proactive. She takes the lens that will help her, you know, see through the Fate of Morta's face. When she said, like, for my immortal king, I will find a way. That's kind of a romantic line. If only we had more romantic couple. Okay, yeah, so that's the end. It is a cliffhanger. Overall, I would say the whole book is just a setup for the next one. It started slow, and I get it. We need to establish several things. We need to establish Vasalie's situation. She needs time to cover. We need to set up this world. We need to set up Illian and their relationship before. That's one thing actually that was really done well. From the flashbacks that Vasalie narrates for us, we can see how she was taken in by Illian, how she believed that he was protecting her. Or usually if we get a character who has an abusive person in their past, we only get to see like what they've done. We don't really get to see how they came to be under this abusive person's power. But here it's established how Vasalie believed Illian, and I think that worked. I like that. It gave you glimpses of how Illian was. It makes you believe, okay, yeah, I see how Vasalie believed him. I see how Vasalie almost fell for him. But then now we have this betrayal, and we see how he is also a toxic, abusive person. I said at the beginning, I think the biggest strength of the book is it makes you emotionally invested on Vasalie because of her struggle with her body. She has new reality that she has to face while also being forced to do the things that she could no longer do. You sympathize with her being powerless, being controlled and manipulated and abused by Illian. You root for her to want to get free. But then in the middle, she becomes passive. I think the biggest flaw, the biggest thing that didn't work in the book is the narration, because it's all very much in Vasalie's head. It's all her thoughts. It's all her processing things and narrating it to us. There are scenes where it's like active, where Vasalie sees things as it happens and she reacts in real time, like on page. But most of the book, it's just her relating things like, I did this, I was tired, this happened, that kind of thing. That makes everything feel passive, even though they're doing things physically. When the action is not immediate, when it's not live on page, it lowers the tension, it removes the risk, it removes the sense of urgency. It slowed the pace down. I wish there was less of Vasalie just ruminating about her past constantly, not adding anything new. It's just repeatedly, you know, oh, Emilia did this, Illian did this to me, I need to get out, I need my freedom. Less of that and more of the present day. More of her doing the things that she was doing. More of her practicing with Copeland, falling down, seeing Copeland be frustrated at her during the practices, not like the romance part. I think that would fix the slow pacing because it wouldn't be as obvious. Like, while we need to set up the friendship, that needs time. We need to set up the romances, that needs time. And I would be okay for a slow pace. as long as the characters are active in their own life and not just going with the flow. I wish there was more developed way to the dancing. Does she not use anything else other than floor? I don't see her creative spirit. I don't see what is so special about her that 3 people were kind of infatuated with her. Illian is obsessed with her. Why? Because she was meant to be his wife, and that she ended up in Illian's kingdom and Illian's palace makes it fate. Is that why he's so obsessed with her? We have Copeland. He says she makes him feel alive, feel like the passion. Why? Because of the dancing. Okay, but we didn't really see them practice. Aside from the few dances that we see, like the dance where they kiss, we don't really see them connect in a creative way. And then we have Anton, who says, we all have comforts, maybe you are mine. How? How is Vasalie giving you comfort? I don't know. Because if you look at what happened, Vasalie kind of gave him problems because she was helping Illian scheme. It allowed Illian to frame Anton and endanger the alliance with Razam. So how is she a comfort to you? So instead of like being constantly in Vasalie's head, we could have set up narrative beats and emotional beats for the romance, the friendship with Laurent, everything. I think also it would have been fun if we had more point of view characters. I think it could have been fun if we had a POV where we don't really know who the character is. Like there's this hooded character walking through the tunnels, spying on people. He has this mysterious device and it allows him to take pictures through that hooded person. We could have learned about the Prophet plotline. We could have seen the plot about Brissendale and Razam's bad blood. We could have seen the political intrigue side through that point of view. So this hooded character, we don't know who they are. It's in first person, but we follow them gather evidence. We follow them talking to people like Laurent, like Gustave about this political plot that's going on. And then later when Vasalie's in the tunnels, we could have that reveal that the other POV is actually Anton. I think that would add court intrigue. It would raise more tension. It would raise questions, make readers more invested, and it would break the monotony of Vasalie just performing, doing a task, feeling guilty, performing, doing another task, feeling guilty about that task. So having another POV, I think, would break that and bring more excitement, more mystery, more tension, more court intrigue. Because yeah, Vasalie is really detached from the court intrigue side, even though she's a pawn and doing Illian's bidding. Yeah, so 2.5. So the reason that I rated the book on the low scale is because on the description, it promised court intrigue. It promised, let's see here. In the description, it says like, my protector is gone, but I remind myself that I am not a damsel. I'm no princess bound within a tower. I am a shadow. So I would expect more espionage, more active, competent espionage. Except we get this passive character who doesn't really do anything. She is actually very trapped. She is a princess in a tower. By tower, meaning Illian's influence. Because she doesn't really escape Illian's influence until we are at the 94%. Any attempts fails, and the attempts are not even good. It's not like her throwing everything to escape. It's half-hearted. The actions that she does, she takes half the poison. She still poisons Gustave, she takes half, but like, and it's presented that, okay, this is my little rebellion. And then there's the part where she talks back at the king, okay, but really what's the impact? There's the part where she makes a message with the flag, a confusing message, I think, but then it takes taken down. So her efforts are not really full on like, I need to escape this person. I need to put everything behind escaping this person. It's very half-assed. Then we have this thing about dancer turned spy, except she's not a very good spy. She's just following what Illian says and feels bad about it. With her world threatened, Vasalie enlists the help of Illian's brother and great adversary. From the description, I expected she would go to Anton earlier because it does make it seem like, okay, they're gonna team up and then they're gonna work together to counteract Illian. Except they only work together starting at like 70 to 77% along that range. And she does it as in a very flimsy way as well. She goes to the tunnel, she gets sidetracked, Anton captures her, Anton forces her to confess everything. So yes, Vasalie made the decision to search out Anton, except once the moment is there, she's still feeling like hesitant about it. So why not throw yourself fully? Why not commit to doing everything you can to fight Illian, especially you know how terrible he is. As the rivalry between brothers escalates with Vasalie caught in the middle, the horrifying truth of her past comes to light. Did we actually see an escalation of the rivalry, or did we just see Illian's plan going exactly as he wanted? Because we did not see Anton or Vasalie push back. Illian actually, like, everything went well for him until 94%. For me, there's no escalating. It's just Illian taking everything that he wants and his plan going like almost perfectly. Vasalie caught in the middle, I guess, because everything is just happening around Vasalie. Horrifying truth about her past. delivered in a very exposition way. Like, yeah, it's an explanation as to why Illian was so obsessed. At first, because of the Fate of Morta being brought up so many times, what if Vasalie was like an incarnation of Morta, or like, because Morta was like human once, I think, and then she became the Fate of Morta. Like, what if Vasalie was an incarnation? And then we have the prophecy as well. So what if she was an incarnation, and that's why Illian was so obsessed with her? That's why she has this sort of like aura that just kind of pulls everyone in. And then that's why like Anton was taken with her rather quickly, because Anton has that tie with Morta. But it didn't go that way. It's just that she was betrothed to Illian 13 years ago, and that's why Illian was so obsessed. It's a bit disappointing, especially with the constant bringing up of Morta. Like, I would think Morta played a bigger part, not just like at the end. For me, I don't think the book delivered what it said on the synopsis. It missed the mark. I think there was no court intrigue. Vasalie is not an active character. While she is not a damsel, she is also not a shadow. So yeah, that's why it's a 2.5. It didn't deliver on what it said it would be. I had really high hopes at the beginning. Would I read the second book? I don't know. If we get multiple point of views, maybe, if the writing becomes more active, because the author can do it. Like, the last bits of action, characters were active. It was written in a present, active, engaging way. It was showing rather than telling. So if the author just applies that to the second book and keeps everything a showing and stop the train of thought narrative sort of, then maybe I would be interested. That Morta plot is interesting. Anton forgetting about Vasalie is very interesting. This would give them a chance to actually like have a second chance of falling in love, and maybe in book 2 we could see them actually bonding emotionally, because we didn't see that here. But yeah, I don't know if I'll read it. Maybe not. Yeah, so that was A Dance of Lies. I don't know, I'm so tired. This has been a long talk, I think. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are you gonna read the second book if you've read it? Also, like, I've seen in on Goodreads, there's a lot of reviews that say that they didn't expect who the main love interest is, which kind of confuses me. Like, I'm interested to know why not. Because I would think if you haven't read a lot of romantasy, I feel like this would hit for you. But if you've read a lot of romantasy before, maybe that's when it's sort of a miss. Let me know in the comments. If you've read a lot of romantasy with court intrigue before, did you find this book engaging? Did you find it interesting? Did you find it new? Were you able to tell who was the main love interest? For those who have not read a lot of romantasy, or maybe this is the first romantasy book, like, were you surprised? Were you able to tell who was the love interest? Did you recognize any tropes? Let me know in the comments. I'm very interested in that, because yeah, there seems to be a lot of mixed reviews there, that some people say, oh, it's obvious. Other people say, I did not expect that at all. Yeah, if you like my content, like and subscribe. Yeah, unfortunately, this is another dud for me. But yeah, that was A Dance of Lies by Brittany Arena. Yeah, so seeing her name, I just realized, so in Tagalog and Filipino, flower is harina. In my native language, we kind of say arena, which is spelled exactly like Brittany Arena. And I just saying her name just now, I just realized that it means flower. I don't know if that was intentional, but maybe. Like, is that why Million Flower was such a big thing? Is that why Million Flower was incorporated into the dance? Because of the last name? I've connected the dots. That was A Dance of Lies by Brittany Arena. I'll see you next week. Bye.